Ms. Chrysosta Halwindi, and it was seconded by Ron Member of Parliament, Mr. Joel Chuye. This is titled Introduce Tree Planting Week, that in order to mitigate the effects of climate change, this House urges the government to introduce an annual tree planting week. And so at the time business was being suspended at 12:55 hours, nominated Member of Parliament, Mr. Likando Mufalali, had just finished debating this motion. And so when business resumes at 14:30, we expect members of Parliament to continue debating this private member's motion. Still to come on the order paper, we expect the House to consider 3 committee reports, and we expect the first committee report to be moved by Siavonga Member of Parliament, Mr. Dalius Molunda, urging the House to adopt the report of the Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the ministerial appointment of Mr. Mumanga Moden Mayambe to serve as Director of the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation's ZNBC Board for the 3rd session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 March 2024. The next one is expected to be moved by a Mwomba Member of Parliament, Mr. Fred Jatila. This is to urge the House to adopt the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the review of the 3rd and 4th quarter performance of the 2023 budget for selected ministries, provinces, and spending agencies for the 3rd session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 March 2024. Another one is expected to be moved by Mulobezi Member of Parliament, Engineer Raphael Mabenga, urging the House to adopt the report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies on the ratification of the International Agreement of the African Telecommunications Union Constitution and Convention for the 3rd session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 March 2024. After consideration of those committee reports, we expect the House to consider 2 bills that are coming at different stages, and the first one is the Constituency Development Fund Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2023, which is coming at 2nd reading stage. The other one is the Animal Identification and Traceability Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2024, which is coming at report stage. After consideration of those 2 bills that are coming at different stages, we expect resumption of debate on a motion of thanks, His Excellency the President's address, a motion of 13th March 2024, that was moved by Chama South Member of Parliament, Mr. Davison Mungandu, that the thanks of this assembly be recorded for the exposition of the public policy contained in His Excellency the President's address. And so when business resumes, we expect the House to consider 3 committee reports, 2 bills that are coming at different stages, and resumption of debate on a motion of thanks. The House has so far considered 2 questions for oral answer under Standing Order 76 on the order paper. Question number 330 came from Luanseshi Member of Parliament, Mr. Taulo Chewe. He directed his question to the Minister of Agriculture. He wanted to find out a question in 3 parts: whether the government is aware that briefcase buyers have begun to purchase maize from small-scale farmers. In part B of the question, he wanted to find out, if so, what measures are being taken to ensure that the Food Reserve Agency, FRA, purchases and mops up the maize produced during the 2023-2024 farming season, so as to ensure the country is food secure. In part C of the question, he wanted to find out when FRA will announce the floor price of the maize. And the question number 331 came from Chama North Member of Parliament, Mr. Yota Mutayachalo. He directed his question to the Minister of Community Development and Social Services. He wanted to find out a question in 2 parts: why some beneficiaries of the Social Cash Transfer Program in Chama North Parliamentary Constituency have not yet paid since December 2023. In part B of the question, he wanted to find out what urgent measures are being taken to ensure that the beneficiaries are paid, including the arrears. And so Those are 2 questions for oral answer under Standing Order 76 that were considered in the morning, and we saw the Minister responding, the Minister of Agriculture responding to question number 330, and Minister of Community Development and Social Services responding to question number 33, which 331, which came from Chairman North Member of Parliament, Mr. Yota Mutayachalo. And when business resumed, Madam Speaker did make one announcement. Madam First Deputy Speaker recognized the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Kings Highway SDS School in Lusaka District. Madam First Deputy Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, warmly welcomed the visitors to the National Assembly. They are also, just now, we take you to the floor of
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, I've got announcements to make. When business was suspended, the House was considering the private member's motion moved by the Honorable Member for Kawe Central and the Honorable Member, the Honorable nominated member, Mr. Mfarari, had just finished debating. Any further debate? Another announcement, honorable members. I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Petozi School in Lusaka District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this motion has come at a very right time. Let me commend the Minister for Environment and Green Economy and Environment, Honorable Nzov, for the actions that you are taking in terms of preservation of our forests. I will later go into details. As much as we are talking about planting trees, my question, Honorable Speaker, is what is it that we are doing to preserve already existing trees? We are seeing every minute, Honorable Speaker, if you are to go along Mumba Road, go along Great East Road, go along Great North Road, you will be meeting almost every minute, if not 5 minutes, a truck carrying charcoal. That charcoal, Honorable Speaker, is not manufactured from Zafico plantations. It is from trees from our forests. What is it that we are doing to ensure that we preserve these trees? In the eastern direction, if you look at Malawi, much of Malawi is deforested. Northern direction, you go to Tanzania, there they have laws you can't even produce charcoal. Similarly in Zimbabwe here, after Vic Falls when we cross, we see our colleagues, they've maintained their vegetation. And no one would argue that it's because they've made those areas as national parks. Unfortunately for us, in spite seeing or being impacted by bad weather, southern part of the country not receiving enough rainfall, we have continued to allow indiscriminate cutting of trees. In Chama, Honorable Speaker, the situation is horrible. We have Tanzanians that have moved into Chama South in particular, and they are running up and down because the Minister of Green Economy has taken action. Honorable Minister, I can report to you that I know where these colleagues from Tanzania in my constituency, they are hiding. And they are not one or two. They are more than 100, Honorable Speaker. They are there cutting our indigenous species. I'm not a scientist, but locally we call them mpapa. I know this tree might be existing also in Kaputa. I hope it hasn't also been depleted in that area. Making matters worse, our friends from the Asian continent, few weeks ago were in Chama, signing agreement that they want to start harvesting mopani. And if you look at most of our GMAs, they consist of mopani tree. So the moment we tamper with this tree, Honorable Speaker, it simply means we are killing all the GMAs in the valleys. Because I know even in Livingstone, animals breed in a habitation where mopani tree is. Most of Tunya National Park consists of mopani. North Ruangwa National Park, 98% of tree species there are mopani. Honorable Speaker, this motion, how I wish it went further to suggest that the government should move some amendments on the Forestry Act. Because those of us who are fighting for the preservation of our forests are becoming victims. 2 days ago, I was being threatened, Honorable Speaker, by a man who claimed to be the chairperson of timber traders. He promised me that he's going to decampaign me because I'm fighting the timber industry. Is the timber industry illegal harvesting of our indigenous species? I don't think so. No wonder the government has moved in. Honorable Minister, we are very grateful. I want to tell you that the 98% of the people of Chama are with you. Only maybe 2%, those that have connived with foreigners to cut trees, are the ones that will not be with you. Even then, I appeal to them that they should be with you. Let them not be with me. Because I'm the one who wants that area to be protected. Honorable Speaker, as a nation, we need to make decisions. It's very expensive to do reforestation. Planting of trees is extremely expensive. If you want to know that cost, we can ask China. China's reforested. Almost 90% of their landmass, which was depleted, now is looking green. How much has it cost them? For us, we can prevent that. Why should we even go into ecologically sensitive areas? If timber logging is done into designated areas, we have no objection. But people have gone into forests, GMAs, areas bordering national parks. As a result, you've seen elephants. This problem that we are complaining of, human-animal conflict, is actually exacerbated by such illegal activities. In conclusion, I'll be calling upon this government, which has already shown the will, not to make appeasement decisions. Make decisions the way you are making them to rebuild the nation. The majority of the people will be with you. Of course, few criminals will not. Those that do illegal things. I don't think I've mentioned any name here, but those who do illegal things are criminals. No, I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at Honorable Gasaut. So, Honorable Speaker, please, Honorable Minister, we are very grateful. That is how it should be. We have hope and trust in you. I submit, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Katua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also debate on this very important motion moved by the Member of Parliament for Kawe Central. Mr. Speaker, the topic under discussion is not only an environmental one, but it is also an economic topic. I want also to agree, first of all, that as we move into this arena, as we move towards the green economy, I think that is how all economies around the globe are moving, to ensure that we can reduce the impact of climate change. Everybody is encouraging every economy to move in the green direction. And because of that, the issue of planting trees and the issue of reducing the carbon emission to basically deplete the ozone layer and bring all the effects of climate change on Earth are being encouraged, so that if this is reduced, then human catastrophe is going to be avoided. I think I also want to encourage the Ministry of Green Economy that yes, as we move in this direction, we need first of all to chart the way forward on what God has already given us. What is it that really we are doing to protect the forests, the trees, and those shrubs that are already with us that can also add to the reduction of the ozone layer depletion. So really we need to start introducing some legislation to ensure that we protect and ensure that we live in a more greener environment. But I want also to move to the economic side, Mr. Speaker, that now if we talk about attracting foreign direct investment, many of the investors, smart investors, are looking at how the destinations are now profiled with what is known as eco-friendly destinations. And because of that, you'll find that there is a lot of competition in ensuring that our economies become more eco-friendly in order to attract foreign direct investment. Because no investor would want to go and invest in a destination that is not looking after its environment. As a very common saying goes in the business environment, Mr. Speaker, that usually people work for what they call the triple bottom line. Yes, the profit, yes, the people, but the planet. The planet becomes very important in any business decision. And therefore, as we move towards ensuring that we attract this investment, we must profile our destination on how much and what legislations we have when it comes to eco-friendliness. And eco-friendly destinations attract eco-friendly investments and therefore build a sustainable economy, which are now being called greener economies. When it comes to the issue of tourism, Mr. Speaker, many of the travelers today are looking at the profiles of what they are calling eco-tourism destinations. Because many of the people want to make sure that their little earnings, wherever they are going to spend it, it is going to give a positive impact to the environment and the globe at large. And where is it best to invest your purchases than to purchase in destinations, countries, economies that are investing in the environment. And so the planting of trees becomes one of the flagships that shows the seriousness of a country when it comes to how they are treating their economy as an economy or a green economy. So as we position ourselves, as we move for this agenda, the issue becomes, are we taking a holistic approach? This is not only an environmental issue, but we have to integrate it into it becoming an economic issue, so that we can also put rules and regulations to start demanding that every investment that is in our economy must have a blueprint of how they are protecting the planet. The third P of the triple bottom line. And like I said earlier on, any investor in the world, yes, will look for the profit, yes, they will look at protecting the people because they need labor, but they must prove beyond any reasonable doubt that they are protecting the planet and the environment. Because of that, Mr. Speaker, I feel supporting such a motion will position ourselves both in the tourism sector and in the investment attraction as an eco-friendly destination, so that we can profile ourselves that we are concerned about what is happening in the depletion of the ozone layer and the impact and the effects of climate change. Only then are we going to see a lot of people rushing for our destination as a good destination for investment, as well as a good destination for them to move. But as we do this, Mr. Speaker, like I said earlier on, can we ensure that we are protecting what we already have? Can we ensure that we conscientize and ensure we bring about paradigm shift when it comes to the issue of the environment? It brings me back again, Mr. Speaker, that we must take this subject very strongly back into education, the curricula of the education system, to see that the impact on the environment is an impact on humanity. If we kill the environment, we are killing the sustainability of humanity, and therefore we are killing the ecosystem. The flora and fauna of this country and the whole world is not going to wait if we do not take proper plans to ensure that we protect the environment. Mr. Speaker, I stand here with the people of Katuba to support this initiative, because for me it is going to be an iceberg of what we are going to do, that we are going to do greater things and introduce laws and regulations that are going to show our seriousness in protecting the environment. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bwana Mkubwa is not there. The Honourable Member for Kantanshi. The Honourable Member for Kanchivia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank the mover and seconder of this very important motion, non-controversial motion. And from the people of Kanchivia, this motion speaks to one of the resources we possess and hold dearly, and that is the environment. Mr. Speaker, this motion is critical in the sense that we replant trees or we go for reforestation for purposes of preserving the environment, as colleagues who have gone before me have already spoken to, because the environment for some of our communities is all we have. If we do not take care of the environment, the rainfall pattern is disturbed, and by implication, we see a spike in the levels of poverty. So the need for us to guard jealously what we have becomes very important. The need for us to mitigate the effects of climate change, Mr. Speaker, becomes critical. It's also important that this motion is supported, Mr. Speaker, for purposes of enhancing economic prosperity for our people. What this does for rural communities, Mr. Speaker, is that it gives us an opportunity to tap into the carbon credits. and this market is vast. This market provides one of the surest ways of lifting rural communities out of poverty. Not only that, Mr. Speaker, replanting and restoring our forests plays a critical role in us enhancing our indigenous knowledge systems. What I mean, Mr. Speaker, is that I speak to issues around herbal medicines. We have seen economies, big economies like China, India, etc., which continue to make millions, if not billions of dollars from herbal medicines. We have a situation where, with a phasing out of one generation and the succession of newer generations, indigenous knowledge systems are also being lost in the process. There was a time when we had our grandmothers and they would know how to cure and prescribe for certain ailments. That is no longer the case. The need for us to go back to indigenous knowledge systems by ensuring that in replanting of trees and planting of trees, we also promote those trees with medicinal properties becomes critical. So in terms of economic prosperity for our rural communities, but as well as supporting those of us who would be in urban areas becomes unavoidable. For the young people, Mr. Speaker, this very important motion cannot be overemphasized. Young people can have nurseries of seedlings, and including mukula, which we continue to, to sometimes give a bad name to. I met someone and a group of young people working with someone in Lusaka supporting seedlings, mukula seedlings. That project was presented to some offices, but it could not be supported. And as a result, the project folded because they could not get the sort of support they would get. Mukula seedlings, Mr. Speaker, is something young people can get involved into. Have nurseries. We ensure that more and more of this particular commodity or asset is grown, and for future generations. 50 years down the line, this country will say we've got this type of area of mukula trees for export markets. It's important that we begin to also think around this particular motion in the sense of creating wealth for future generations. The need for us to create green cities becomes very important, Mr. Speaker. The construction industry becomes one of the culprits with regard to deforestation or the cutting down of trees. With every road that is being made, with every commercial enterprise that is coming up, trees are being lost. So in terms of policy, what are we doing to ensure that for every tree that is lost due to construction, there's replacement happening somewhere? Whether this becomes as in the form of corporate social responsibility, that a construction company would donate some seedlings or some trees to a community for every tree that is cut as they undertake their endeavors. Mr. Chairperson, Mr. Speaker, the farming or the agriculture sector, commercial agriculture, is also a major culprit. That if you're going to have 200 hectares, 300 hectares of commercial land, which we need, you're going to cut down a number of trees. How are we replacing, and what are we doing to replace the trees that we lose, even as we promote agriculture in our nation? So balancing and ensuring that we don't tamper with the ecosystem becomes critical. The agriculture sector will need these trees in order for us not to disturb the rate cycle. So what do we do to ensure that there's policy that for every tree that is cut, we find a way of replanting these trees? It is not just a charcoal burners, Mr. Speaker, in terms of energy. Sometimes we've given our charcoal burners a bad name, especially those of us from rural areas, that these don't have adequate sources of energy. But what is critical, again, is to agree that as our rural dwellers cut down these trees to sustain their livelihood, there's more that we can do to engage rural communities, to appreciate the need for them to replant. if there are misgivings and disadvantages with such temene, what can we recommend to our communities to ensure that if there's a tree that is cut, 2 more trees are planted? Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I wish to support this very important motion unreservedly. I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kafinsa.
Mr. Speaker, the privilege to add a comment, and I don't intend to utilize the entire 8 minutes. Mr. Speaker, I have followed quite keenly most of the comments that have been made by those that have debated, and clearly everyone supports the idea that we need to introduce a week that will be dedicated towards planting of trees. But I will try and pick a different angle to avoid sounding like I'm repeating what has already been alluded to. Mr. Speaker, you are aware that the 2024 national budget did approve, this House did approve 177 billion kwacha as our national budget for 2024. Out of the 2024 national budget, Mr. Speaker, only 0.8% was allocated to the Ministry of Environment and Green Economy. Now, 0.8%, Mr. Speaker, out of 177 billion kwacha is only 1.4 billion kwacha. Now, looking at the program that has been brought for discussion today, planting trees every week to achieve a certain milestone, Mr. Speaker, practically the ministry will be constrained to achieve not only this well-intended program, but many other programs that this important ministry is supposed to attend. And as I support this proposal that has come from the Member of Parliament for the people of Kabwe, I want to remind this august House that when budgetary allocations are being made to specific ministries, we need to attach a certain level of importance to those particular programs that clearly everyone here is justifying to be very important. I don't think anyone here has stood up and said we don't need to support the planting of trees on a weekly basis. But I think the argument is, how do we capacitate the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment to ensure that once we approve this motion today, the next thing we'll be asking ourselves, Mr. Speaker, is how many workers have been employed to undertake this program? How many officers is the Ministry of Green Economy under Cabinet Office have been allocated to his ministry to be able now to come to Kamfinsa where we have Mwekera Forest, to be able to go to all these different places that require officers of the state? Because currently, Mr. Speaker, the biggest challenge which we have is actually issues to do with enforcement. Who is going to run with this program that we are approving today? Who is going to ensure that on a weekly basis we have the trees that we need to plant so that we attain a certain number of trees in our environment? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, you are again aware that currently we have forests that are occupied by people. If you come to Mwekera Forest as an example, we have people that have stayed in these forests for over 30 years. The question I raise as we approve this very, very important motion is that this might just as well be a solution to the problem of deforestation. Because if we have people that have occupied our forests for the last 30 years, it simply means that at some point, 10, 15 years from now, the people that have occupied these forests, Mr. Speaker, will still have to be accommodated in a certain way. Now, if we are going to accommodate people in our existing forests, there must be other pieces of land where we are planting trees in order to strike some sense of balance. Because if we don't plant trees, Mr. Speaker, it becomes extremely impossible for us to say, Minister of Forests, of Lands, can you allow these people that have overstayed in one forest to keep staying in that particular piece of land? Because there's no alternative place that is generating us the benefits that many of us have already alluded to. The point I want to make, Mr. Speaker, is that this motion today, as we all support it, we might as well be looking at a solution to many other challenges that we are facing, occupants of current forests. Because I'm very certain in the people that have been advocating for us to accommodate those who are occupying our forest, the only alternative is to look at Zambia. We map Zambia, Mr. Speaker, we identify the pieces of land that we are underutilizing, we plant more trees, then, Mr. Speaker, I'll come to the Minister of Lands, and I know the Minister of Lands will be able to say, MP for Kamfinsa, you have advocated for us to plant enough trees. We will allow part of your forest to be occupied by these who have settled for over 30 years. In the absence of planting trees, Mr. Speaker, we have no justification to accommodate our people in these forests. So as I wind up, Mr. Speaker, I want to speak today to the issue of budgetary allocation. We give the Ministry of Green Economy more resources, they are able to plant trees adequately, then we'll have justification, Mr. Speaker, to be able to say, let's accommodate our people. With the urbanization that is taking place, we need to find a win-win balance. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, we should not rely on the goodwill of those that are occupying office. This is why programs should be in form of government policy. If we don't have government policy, we'll be relying on the goodwill of the Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa. We'll be relying on the goodwill of the Member of Parliament for Ron. But if we have a program that every week we need to plant trees, Mr. Speaker, even after I've left, this program will outlive this current generation. The people of Kamfinsa, Mr. Speaker, do support this proposal, and I do hope that the resources that are needed will be made available in the 2025 national budget. I thank you.
Thank you. Last will be the Honourable Member for Solwezi East, and the Honourable Minister will respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. Mr. Speaker, as I support the motion on the floor of the House to introduce tree planting week, indeed, I need to state on the onset that trees are very, very important, or forests is quite significant to the support of human life, because examples can be drawn that forests, for example, help wildlife in terms of the provision of food, shelter, even food to human beings, erosion control, health. We are able to use plants in order to have certain remedies for ill health, balance of nature in terms of the ecosystem, and many other benefits from the forest. In supporting this motion, Mr. Speaker, may I bemoan the effects of deforestation. Speaking on behalf of Northwestern and in my constituency in particular, if you move all the way from Zambezi through Kabompo, Chavuma there, if you start up there, all the way to the Copper Belt, passing through the central part of Mushindamo, you'll be able to see that a lot of forests have been devastated with visibility of charcoal along the roadside. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, something has to be done about deforestation. And this morning, Mr. Speaker, I was talking to the Minister of Green Economy on just how one of our chiefs, Chief Musaka in Mushindamo, has bemoaned of the encroachment at the source of the Kafue River in Mushindamo, where people from DRC Congo have entered into the Zambian side, encroaching the source of the Kafue River, cutting trees and burning charcoal. And this calls for serious attention from the Minister of Green Economy, the Minister of Defense, when we talked about the border patrols, so that we are able to curb these people entering our country and do tree cutting, which is actually very, very devastating. Sooner or later, if the source of the river there dries, and you know the effect that will come, because Kafue River supports not only part of Northwestern, but Copper Belt, Central, and all the way to the place where it joins the Zambezi River. So, Mr. Speaker, this motion is very, very dear to me. Not only that, Mr. Speaker, if we are thinking of planting trees, may I call the government, the executive, to quickly look at the Industrial Hemp Act of 2021, which just requires a CAB memo in order to action that act. Mr. Speaker, the industrial hemp, alongside with the bamboo, is one of the fastest growing plants on earth. And that plant, industrial hemp, of course it is in the family of cannabis, but that plant, apart from industrial use and consumable use, it grows so fast, and just 1 hectare of that industrial hemp, once grown, it is able to absorb, or what you call carbon sequestration, it is able to absorb between 10 to 22 tons of carbon dioxide. So that plant, Mr. Speaker, if that act is actioned, we are able to grow because it grows fast and it is able to absorb the carbon dioxide that we are talking about, and indeed we are able to reduce the effects of climate change. So I call upon this House and the executive.
Honorable member there. We're in the House. Order. May the honorable member continue. Honorable Kasandwe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We are talking about very, very important issues here, and we are able to see some people disturbing. Why? Because maybe they don't understand the importance of forest. Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying is, when we grow the industrial hemp, it is able to absorb a lot of carbon dioxide, and we're able to reduce the effect of climate change. So can this House and the executive consider actioning the Industrial Hemp Act so that we are able to grow that kind of plant? Mr. Speaker, if you look at the forest, which actually I lobby with your office and Parliament TV and the organizations that are pushing for the agenda for carbon trading to come to Mushindamo in His Royal Chief Highness Chief Mujimanzovu. Beautiful forest there. And the chief has taken deliberate measures to make sure that whoever comes to have farms there preserve the forest. It is so beautiful, Mr. Speaker, that you admire how this chief has maintained that forest. It's quite vast. You can actually drive for 1 hour, 2 hours. You are just in the forest. Why? Because of one particular action taken by a chief. And I call upon your office to document that forest so that you are able to see how beautiful that forest is and how we are able to prevent deforestation. Mr. Speaker, that is a request from your office. Actually, it can add value to our Parliament TV. May I, Mr. Speaker, just state that it is very, very important to make sure that our forests are protected for the reasons that I have stated. It is very important that every human being who values the forest take deliberate action to plant. If you go to Mushindamo and our constituency office, the trees that you gave us, Mr. Speaker, I have planted them around and they are growing. Some of them have actually reached almost 2 meters. And that is just an example. What more if we have to introduce this week of tree planting across the country? We are able to do more, and we are able to save the lives that are actually getting affected because of this climate change. Mr. Speaker, more have been said, but may I emphasize that we need to curb the issues of deforestation, charcoal burning. We need to enhance, for instance, here in town, many people depend on solar energy, liquid petroleum for gas, and so on. What if we reduce completely the tax on that? And those people in the village, they will not be able to cut the trees and burn charcoal to supply into towns. they can also be given the alternatives for livelihood. And Mr. Speaker, this issue of carbon trading, indeed, it is very, very important. It's part of what we need to do in order to preserve our forest. That said and done, we stand to support this motion for the sake of preserving life on earth. And Mr. Speaker, please encourage our executive to action that Industrial Hemp Act because of the fastness of growth of that plant and its impact in absorbing carbon dioxide. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think I have to make some sort of clarification. This motion was seeking support on the floor of the House that we should introduce an annual planting week. But honorable members, you contravened a bit. You were talking about planting these trees every week, contrary to what the motion was speaking to. However, the Honorable Minister of Green Economy and Environment will respond.
Mr. Speaker, before I begin my debate, let me start by bringing words of deep thanks, gratitude to the government of the Republic of Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema, the Minister of Finance, for reaching an agreement with the Eurobond holders to restructure more than 3.5 billion of our debt. Madam Speaker, also what was gratifying is the fact that by restructuring, the Eurobond holders have let go of in excess of $840 million. This indeed will free up resources, and these will be channeled to various sectors of our economy. Mr. Speaker, this also comes in the backdrop of difficulties, COVID-19, the cholera, and now the good news about Mopani. Indeed, CDF, the good things. And also this will also enable us put more resources in the social protection sector. Mr. Speaker, trees indeed. Well, maybe let me also thank the mover of the motion, Madam Halwindi, and the seconder of the motion, my good friend there. And also sincerely thank all members of Parliament who have unanimously supported this motion. Trees indeed, Mr. Speaker, play a vital role in ensuring that the ecological functions of various ecosystems are safeguarded. Trees are without doubt the best carbon capture technology in the world, also called the carbon sinks. When they perform photosynthesis as a mover of the motion elaborated, they pull CO2 out of the air, bind it in sugar, and release oxygen. They also sequester carbon by storing carbon dioxide, which contributes heavily to the greenhouse gas emissions and eventually results in climate change. The impact, Mr. Speaker, of deforestation and forest degradation has led to a loss of a huge number of trees in the country. It is unfortunate that the tree estates in our country continue to be subjected to a lot of pressure from a number of factors, such as unsustainable charcoal production, infrastructure development, mining, and sustainable agricultural practices, among others. As a result of the above, there's an urgent need to protect the remaining trees and plant new ones through a number of initiatives, such as the massive national tree planting activities, natural assisted regeneration. There's further an urgent need to replace the various tree species that have been lost over time, and this requires efforts from all of us. Mr. Speaker, as the House is aware, this country is currently grappling with the worst drought ever recorded. This is the reason why His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema declared the drought a national disaster and an emergency. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, this demonstrates that the country is already experiencing the effects of climate change contributed by the massive loss of trees over the years. In order for us to reduce the impacts of these severe droughts and fight against climate change, it is extremely important to conserve the remaining trees across the country. If the remaining trees are not protected and the degraded forest areas are not regenerated, it means that such severe droughts and climate change will only worsen. Mr. Speaker, government recognizes this vital role that trees play in the fight against climate change, and as such, it has an annual forest calendar that encourages members of the public to plant trees. The government, Mr. Speaker, already has a national tree planting period in which various types of trees are planted every year. This period runs from 15th December to 30th January of every year. The period has been strategically selected to coincide with the period in which the rain season stabilizes and the moisture content of the soil is adequate to support tree growth without watering. During this period, Mr. Speaker, government collaborates with various NGOs, non-state actors, traditional leaders, cooperating partners, this House, and indeed the private sector in planting trees across the country and also sensitizing on the effects of climate change and the danger it has to the country's food security, water availability, and energy supply. Additionally, the ministry offers at least 100 tree seedlings per constituency every year to plant in public places during this period. Further, the UN has also declared 21st March of each year as the International Day of Forests. Mr. Speaker, government supports the motion of introducing a dedicated week of tree planting in order to mitigate the effects of climate change. However, there is need to dedicate a week of intensive tree planting activities. If there is a need, this should fall within the national tree planting period of 5th December to 30th January in order to avoid duplicity of efforts. Alternatively, the tree planting season, which runs from 15th December to 30th January, can be promulgated into law, which will compel citizens to plant trees during this period. Tree planting activities and sustainable management of the environment require the concerted effort of every citizen. I therefore appeal for a collaborative effort by everyone in order to fight the effects of vegetation loss and climate change. Honorable members of the House are also urged to support the national tree planting period by ensuring that at least 1.5% of the CDF is dedicated and allocated towards tree planting and tree seedlings raising. As a ministry, the ministry is ready to offer technical advice and support of tree planting activities. Mr. Speaker, let me also thank the various members of Parliament who supported this motion, Kabwata, Mr. Tayengwa, who bemoaned, obviously, rampant cutting of trees, illegal logging, encroachment, challenges in the forest sector, transport. We do not have enough forest guards for enforcement. Mr. Mufarari as well, who also said because there's so much tree planting, the Komboka ceremony may even be threatened. And indeed, this is true because that catchment is receiving less and less rainfall as a result of massive deforestation. Chama South, we thank you, sir, for bringing to light these legal activities, and I can assure you that government will do everything possible to stop these illegalities. Katuba, indeed, you want to see the forestry sector adding more to our GDP. I think this is very, very welcome. Kanchivia, I think you are very strong on the carbon market, and I want to assure you that soon, during the next sitting, the climate change bill will be on this floor of the House, and issues to do with the carbon market will be addressed. Let me also thank the Member of Parliament for Kamfisa, who advocated for a bigger budget allocation to the ministry. I think this is very, very important. And also maybe to underscore the fact that this is a non-partisan motion. All members of Parliament on the right and the left really must come together and support this motion and also support the ministry, because we have the power to allocate these sums of money. Indeed, the idea of ensuring that we legislate to ensure that the tree planting activities are embedded in the law, I think for me this is very, very important, because I did not hear anybody at all oppose this motion. This motion has brought out the need for tree planting. This motion has really underscored the importance the trees are to ensuring that we fight the negative effects of climate change. Legislation is the way to go, and we have the power to do this. Solwezi, Member of Parliament, Honorable Katakwe, we thank you as well, because you really brought out this issue in a very, very good way. So, in summary, I want to thank you, the mover of the motion, the House. I'm sure together we can do something to protect this very, very important natural resource. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kawe Central wind-up debate.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, in winding up the motion, allow me to thank the Honourable Minister of Green Economy, Honourable Nzovu, for supporting this motion. And thank you so much, because you have indeed responded to the issues that honourable members who have debated has brought before this House. As the mover of the motion, once more, let me thank my colleague who have seconded the motion, Honourable Christopher Chibuye, Member of Parliament for Ron. Thank you so much for every seconding the motion. As the mover of the motion, indeed, 1.5% of the CDF, indeed, it would not be a bad idea. Because I know that any project that has got no component of climate change mitigation is a failed project. You can imagine we are constructing bridges, schools, hospitals, whatever we do under CDF. If we do not protect the environment, our bridges can be, taken away with floods. Our schools can be blown off by excessive winds. Then whatever we'll be doing won't be sustainable. So it's very important for that this component also, it is there to make sure that we mitigate climate change effects. And I just want to thank you. The Speaker has corrected the issue of weekly planting of, I think, our honourable member for Kafinsa somehow missed the point that it is an annual, weekly or annual, not every week, as you put it. But thank you so much for advocating for increased funding. Otherwise, let me say thank you so much, all honourable members who debated, Honourable Taengwa, Honourable Mfarari, Honourable Mungandu, Honourable Kurukusa, Honourable Sande Chanda, Honourable Christopher Kangombe, Honourable Katakwe. Thank you so much for supporting this motion. In conclusion, let me say this quote once more: to be without trees would be, in the most literal way, to be without roots. He that plants trees loves others besides himself. So if we plant trees, definitely we love our generation to come before us. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
I put the question. The question is that in order to mitigate the effects of climate change, this government urges the government to introduce an annual tree planting week. As many of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Notice of motion. The Honourable Member for Siavonga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this House do adopt the report of Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the ministerial appointment of Mr. Mumanga Modern Mayembe to serve as Director of the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, ZNBC.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Seconded by the Honourable Member for Chama South. The question is that this House do adopt a report of the Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the ministerial appointment of Mr. Mubanga Modern Mayembe to serve as Director of the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation Board for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26th March 2024. Any debate? The Honourable Member for Siavonga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the appointment of Director for Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation Board is made pursuant to Section 4 of the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation Act, Chapter...
There are many movements, Order. There are many movements on the floor of the House.
Chapter 154 of the Laws of Zambia. Mr. Speaker, the media plays a vital role in promotion of governance, democracy, upholding the rule of law, human rights, and development. Therefore, the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, as a public broadcaster, plays a key role in that regard. In view of this, the committee resolved that only a competent person with unquestionable integrity, diligence, eminence, sound character, and above all, committed to best public media practices should be appointed as director of the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation Board. The committee in this regard requested memoranda from relevant state security agencies, professional bodies, and other stakeholders and the appointing authority. The witness, who also appeared before the committee, assisted it to assess the suitability of the nominee to serve in the position he was being appointed to. Mr. Speaker, the committee notes with satisfaction that all state security agencies did not find any adverse records against the nominee. Additionally, most of the witnesses that appeared before the committee submitted that the nominee possessed the requisite experience and was qualified to serve as director of the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation Board. Mr. Speaker, after its interaction with the nominee, the committee notes with satisfaction that the nominee possesses the requisite competence and experience to serve on the board, on ZNBC Board of Directors. Mr. Speaker, the committee notes that the nominee is a self-disciplined man who possesses vast knowledge and experience in management and media industry, coupled with intellectual knowledge which will be helpful to the corporation. It notes that the nominee has risen through the ranks from information officer to director, press and media development in the Ministry of Information and Media, giving him an understanding of the media and communication sector. Additionally, his legal expertise gives him a thorough awareness of the corporation parameters. Mr. Speaker, the committee, after due and thorough consideration, analysis and evaluation of the written and oral submissions presented to it by the witnesses and the interview with the nominee, is of the view that the nominee is suitably qualified and possesses the requisite competencies to serve as director of the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation Board. In view of this, Mr. Speaker, the committee recommends that this August House ratifies his appointment. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the members of the committee wish to place on record their gratitude to you, Mr. Speaker, for appointing them to serve in this select committee. The committee is also thankful for the services and advice rendered to it by the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly during its deliberations. The committee further wishes to thank the state security and investigative agencies, professional bodies, and other stakeholders, institutions for their oral and written submissions which assisted the committee in making an informed recommendation to the House. Mr. Speaker, it is now my pleasure to call upon this House to ratify the appointment before it. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
The Honourable Member for Wengwa. Who is this? The Honorable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank you most sincerely for granting me this opportunity to second this motion. I would also like to thank the mover, Honorable Member for Siavonga, for ably moving the motion. Mr. Speaker, the movers sufficiently emphasize on the salient points upon which the committee supports the ratification of Mr. Momanga Moden Maembe to serve as Director of Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation Board. Honorable Speaker, sir, in seconding the motion, I wish to reiterate the committee's observation that the nominee possesses the requisite competences and experience to serve in the position to which he has been appointed. Mr. Speaker, the committee therefore wishes to applaud the appointing authority for ensuring that only a competent person with unquestionable integrity, diligence, eminence, sound character, and above all, committed, was appointed to serve on the board of ZNBC as the director. The committee, however, Mr. Speaker, notes that the reservation of one of the witnesses that the appointment of the nominee to serve on the ZNBC board would be perceived as a means of government ensuring that the editorial component of Zambia Broadcasting Corporation will be aligned to its policies, was watered down, because that is exactly why the government makes appointments in public office. That is for civil servants to carry out the mandate and the policies of the government of the day. Honorable Speaker, sir, the other issue which some witnesses highlighted was the enhancement of democratic space in the country. This nominee, Honorable Speaker, indicated that his job is to ensure not only the front bench activities are highlighted, but also the activities of all members of parliament, including the backbench. They will have an opportunity to showcase their developmental agenda vis-à-vis utilization of the constituency development fund. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, we have been talking as a nation that democratic space is shrinking. A lot of critics have highlighted that. The biggest question that we should be asking is there democracy without following the rule of law? Is there democracy in the world where people break the laws of that country? Probably the answer is no. No any government world over will we ever allow citizens of that country to conduct themselves in a manner that is prohibited by the law, and they will go scot-free. It's not possible. Therefore, we should realize that as we exercise our democratic rights, we should do so within the confines of the law. Only then if we can prove that people are being curtailed even when they've not breached any constitution or indeed any act of parliament can we complain. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, allow me to extend my gratitude to the chairperson of the committee for the proficient, fair, and impartial manner in which he presided over the meetings and deliberations of the committee. May I also extend my sincere gratitude to all members of the committee for their objectivity, professionalism, and unity of purpose during the committee's deliberations. With these few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to second the motion. Honorable Speaker, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Wengwa.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving this opportunity to debate about the ratification of Mr. Mayembe Mbanga as Director of Zambia National Broadcasting Board. Honorable Mr. Speaker, I can only simply say that the committee which was selected to look at this name, not to scrutinize this name, did a very good job. And as a member of parliament from Wengwa constituency, and I do agree, I support the report of the committee. Even the mover of this report, Honorable Mulunda, we thank you very much. And the second of the motion, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chama South, we thank you very much. And you did a very good job. You did a very great job. Honorable Mr. Speaker, this gentleman who has been appointed or nominated to serve as the director, he's a man of integrity, and I do support, and I've gone through. And all the people, I've gone through the report, and all the people who went there to give a submission, they were all in agreement of this gentleman. Honorable Mr. Speaker, you know this gentleman where he's going, it's a very sensitive position. I think we are not expecting that one of these days we start seeing the opposition political parties being not allowed to go there in ZNBC, okay, to perform some functions of opposition political party leaders. And this government of UPND under the leadership of Hakainde Hichilema, I think it has even shown the people of Zambia and the world at large that really we mean well when it comes to democracy. And you know, just about 3 or 4 years ago, or can I simply say 2 to 3 years ago, you know, we have been seeing a situation whereby we saw a number of radio stations, a number of TV stations being attacked when a member of parliament or even a member from the opposition political party, when he or she is appearing, we saw a lot of bloodshed, and some of the TV stations, radio stations, they were even broken. And there was a time also when the current Republican president was appearing in one of the radio stations in Dola. He was attacked and he went through the rooftop just to save his life. It's something which we have not yet seen under the UPND government. And the Honorable Minister of Information, please continue working for the people of Zambia. And we don't want to see a situation whereby you start also closing some of these medias like even the Post. You know, the Post is no longer here, it is gone. We don't want you to see closing Common Radio, and we don't want you to see closing Prime TV. All these issues, we should make sure that the people of Zambia are protected, including the opposition political party, including this new Ukwa Baki also must be 100% protected, and they must be appearing in every radio station because we mean well for this country. Yeah, Honorable Mr. Speaker, and let me also request the Honorable Minister of Information that please when people from the Patriotic Front, when people from different political parties, when they do appear in those radio stations, TV stations, let them be given enough space, just like the way you have been doing in the last 2.5 years, and you must continue. We don't want to see a situation which we experienced in the last 10-year rule of the PF, where members were being beaten in radio stations, where members were being beaten in TV stations when they were appearing, where members, even where radio stations and TV stations were closed. We don't want to experience that. You know, there is this notion of some people from opposition, where they are saying that the democratic space in this country has shrinked. And you really wonder that, where are these people living? Which country are they talking about? Because they can assemble anywhere, they can go to any TV station, they can go to any
There is a
radio
point of
station.
order. But you should be able, if you indicate, I'll be able to see.
Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, rather, Mr. Speaker, when it gets out of... Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. When it gets out of contention, we'll be able to rise even once, thrice, or even 4 times. Mr. Speaker, 65 is well guided of our rules of the House. Relevance, Mr. Speaker.
65 what?
65A. You need to confine yourself to the debate that is pertaining on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, is the Honorable Member of Parliament that was on the floor of the House in order to go out of the way? In fact, when he's actually abrogating 206 of the floor of the House, dress, he is actually wearing sunglasses in this House, Mr. Speaker. When we are well lighted, is in order, Mr. Speaker, to actually abrogate 206 and 65A of the standing orders of this House. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, you were not quite precise with your point of order. Instead, you resorted to debating. So you've sufficiently debated your point of order. Let's make progress. May the Honorable Member continue.
Honorable Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Before I was disturbed, Honorable Mr. Speaker, I was talking about, let me first of all, Mr. Speaker, request if it is possible at all, to close the industrial area here in the back so that some people can start following the debates and understand the connection between the behavior of some of the officers who were rectifying, in those positions, how they mismanaged some of these, institutions. So it is very important. And Honorable Mr. Speaker, I think, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, I saw a honorable member of parliament for Chama South, for Chama South, debating freely, on that TV station, ZNBC, without being interrupted. And about 2 to 3 days ago, I also saw a honorable member of parliament from Ghana. He was there freely, he was not even attacked. All those are opposition members. And just recently, I even saw Honorable Kalaba. He was there even on ZNBC, he was given also space. And even Mr. Membe, including the former head of state, Edgar Chagwalungu, they do appear and they even, air them, which is very, very important. And please, we don't want to see a situation, Minister, that come tomorrow when this person, when this person will be in his office, not to start misbehaving, but to manage himself in a very mature manner. And we don't want to see a situation whereby when these people want to go and appear in one of these radio stations, please, we must make sure that we don't close not even a single radio station between now and 2026 during the time of general election. We don't want to see a situation which we experienced under the PF rule, where radio stations were closed and where people were beaten in radio stations. We don't want to see those things, Minister. And Minister, we want to pass on this country to a next generation in a very well dignified manner, the way it is being ruled, not a situation where you found this country, where people had even stopped, even people, especially myself, every time I could see a ZNBC news being read, because the only thing we are hearing every time, okay, the headline, Edgar Chagwalungu Soso, Edgar Chagwalungu. No development, no direction at all. This is what we experience, and we don't want that thing again to repeat in this country. Zambia is a democratic country, and we must continue ruling the Zambian people in a very lovely manner, the way the UPND, under the leadership of Yakende Chilema, is doing, not in a PF manner. Honorable Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, sir, sorry. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Member for Feira.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the people of Feira are happy that you have given us an opportunity to debate on the appointment of Mr. Modern Member. Yes, as Director of ZNBC Board. Mr. Speaker, the issue is straightforward. We are discussing the appointment, and this House should ratify, Mr. Member. I'm even surprised that your members are talking about PF. They are missing PF. Closing of radio stations, which are so irrelevant. Mr. Speaker, it is important for people to actually stick to the rules of this House. That way we remain focused, unlike this misleading, my colleague misleading himself. Mr. Speaker, the real issue with ZNBC right now, even as we ratify, Mr. Member, as we ratify the nominee, there are challenges at ZNBC. The major challenge being how operation of this public media institution has been. ZNBC is public funded. It belongs to Zambian and every Zambian. And we expect the board to take note of the fact that there's need for fair coverage for each and everyone. I do not agree with the debater that has just left the floor, that the Chama South Member of Parliament was debating. You know very well that he appeared on ZNBC supporting the government of the day. So that we must take note of. I cannot be allowed, when I express the other view, we need to have balanced up views on ZNBC. And I think that is the main challenge. So for the nominee, whilst I note that the CV, the conduct, or the disciplined nature of the nominee has been highlighted in the report as being well, there is a challenge to be taken note of. Mr. Speaker, let me just say that I would like to call upon the nominee to make a difference at ZNBC with all these problems that are there. Indeed, it is true that these institutions who are in public institutions, and obviously there is a minister, we do not expect them, even where they have the abilities. Sometimes there's political influence. And it's high time, even as people are lamenting, if we want to see there, we don't want people to say one thing and something else happening. Political interference must be removed. Mr. Speaker, even as I go on, as just emphasizing the point that ZNBC be delinked from politics, I think that it will be good for everyone else, like I said, it's a public institution, that this institution must cover everyone very fairly. There was talk of shrinking democratic space, and I'm surprised that it was undermined by the person that was discussing it. But I want to say that it's true. ZNBC can lead in ensuring, by opening up doors to everyone, notwithstanding the fact that there's political pressure, it's high time public officers, those appointed public officers, to stand up against any form of threats and make sure that they do the right thing. Mr. Speaker, I do not want to say much, except to say that the people that speak here, they should not use the floor to seek for jobs. This is a place of lawmaking and not to debate in a manner that people need appointments. I know the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is vacant, and people should not debate and seek a job from here. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
Let's progress. We've got a lot of work before us. The Honourable Member for Bwanamkubwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, let me Mr. Speaker, I was pausing because there was a lot of noise in the House. Order. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank my honorable colleague, Honorable Mlunda, who's moved this motion, and the seconder. Mr. Speaker, I won't waste much of your time, but just to add a few salient features on the motion on the floor of this House. Mr. Speaker, from time immemorial, we've seen how our local broadcasting authority, ZNBC, has conducted its activities. And Mr. Speaker, we are alive to the fact that submissions of a person, their caliber, their tact, and their intellect is not a yardstick we can measure to their eloquence on how they can carry out certain activities in this country. I think we're all alive to that fact. What is my point, Mr. Speaker, is to say that as I debate on this motion on the appointment of the DG for ZNBC, from time immemorial, Mr. Speaker, we've seen that you can be sleeping and wake up and you know the headline for ZNBC because of the way they've conducted themselves. So it's important that as we proceed and do this ratification, Mr. Speaker, that people need to, or ought to behave or conduct themselves above board to ensure that institutions of this country, such as ZNBC, are above board in their conduct and dissemination of information to ensure that there's adequate coverage to the nation and to the Zambian people without taking a position. Because, Mr. Speaker, we've seen different dispensations come and go, but the headlines are the same. So what's important, Mr. Speaker, is to ensure it's not only in the appointment or qualification, but is in the selfless of leaders to see and ensure that that which they've been appointed for, they perform to the expectation of the Zambian people, to ensure that dissemination of information is to the Zambian people and they save the Zambian people. We've been deliberating with various pieces of legislation, and I'm happy that there are issues of the Access to Information Bill and so many issues which we've discussed in this House and deliberated in this House. So my take, Mr. Speaker, just to add a few comments on this motion is to ensure that we are Zambians, and we should not try and even pacify and look at issues in a different telescope, but we need to ensure that we are selfless people and ensure that we save the Zambian people adequately in terms of dissemination of information, such as through our National Broadcasting Corporation, because what is used in that corporation is taxpayers' money for all the Zambian people. Mr. Speaker, I thought of just bringing a few issues to ensure that as we proceed, like our various stated, that it's not in the qualification, but it's in how we position ourselves, how we ensure that we are selfless leaders to ensure that we serve this nation diligently. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. The Honourable Member for Shuangando.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to make a few comments on the motion to ratify the appointment of Mr. Munanga Moden Mayembe to serve as Director of the Zambia Broadcasting Corporation ZNBC Board. Mr. Speaker, your report is suggesting that indeed the nominee is suitably qualified to be appointed to the board and that he has got the requisite qualifications for the job. Mr. Speaker, mine is just to comment on Section 4 of the Zambia Broadcasting Corporation Act number 154 of the laws of Zambia. And Section 4, which is used for this appointment, subsection 2 or subsection 1 and 2, basically places the authority to nominate a member to the board by the minister, subject to ratification by Parliament. My hope, Mr. Speaker, is that indeed, in as much as the minister has got this authority, there must be stability in these boards. I just hope that the new minister is not just changing the board because he's now new there and to do away with the board that was in place. But if indeed it was just a natural vacancy that occurred in the board, that shouldn't be a problem. What I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, is that there must be stability to the extent that it doesn't have to be, the board should not, the lifespan of the board should not be tied to the, lifespan of the office bearers of ministerial positions. As the board, as this board member takes up a position, we want to see ZNBC, which has been transformed in terms of how it has been capacitated, start performing to the expectations of the people, and it pays the obligations that are out there in form of the money that was spent to modernize Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation. That was done by the previous government to ensure that the migration from the analog operations are digitalized, Mr. Speaker. And so it's incumbent upon the board to ensure that they put measures in place for ZNBC to generate revenue, part of which should go to pay the debts that were contracted to modernize ZNBC. I can see the minister is questioning, but it is clear. And I think the Honourable Minister responsible for this institution can attest to the fact that the ZNBC of yesteryears and the ZNBC of today is totally different. And it can compete. I don't think that it can even compete with any of these private media houses. Because it's got the equipment, Mr. Speaker, modern equipment, and it migrated to digital operations much earlier than other corporations that are supported by government. And so, Minister, that's a public broadcaster. And all of us would want to have space on the public broadcaster because it's a public institution. We pay taxes, and therefore we are entitled not only to good packages, but also to participate. So I don't have to be, yes, I may be your colleague, but all of us, be it this here in the opposition, we don't have to beg for slots to appear on ZNBC. Let's continue to see what my colleague for Wenga was saying, because I do remember that members of the opposition, even in the past, were given slots on prime spaces such as Sunday interview. Your president was given a slot on Sunday interview, unless you are not aware, unless you were not there. So we would like that to continue. And in the fact that we have been denied to have rallies, Minister, we want to have space on ZNBC. That's our institution, dear colleagues. So let's continue to see divergent views being aired on the public broadcaster, so that citizens of Zambia can be given opportunity to listen to different views, just as we express ourselves here. That's what we want to see. So, Honorable Minister, I think the report on this nominee is straightforward, and we have no reason not to support it, but it shouldn't take so long to fill up a gap, because we saw a back and forth. Nominees come with names withdrawn for no apparent reason over the same slot that was vacant. Mr. Speaker, with these few remarks, I beg to move.
The Honourable Member for Chisamba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've listened very attentively to the debate from the Member of Parliament for Shiwangando, where he spoke about the back and forth of this position, that it took a very long time. And indeed, I agree with him, because when I was Minister of Information and Media, we had brought in a name of Nalituba Mwale, Mrs. Mwale, and it was rejected by staff here before it could even go to the committee. Second name was Mr. Mayembe, who is being brought in today. It was rejected, and the reason was that those names from the ministry could not be brought to the board of ZNBC, but we were allowed to bring in names to the board of the IBA. That is something that we had spoken about a number of times, but I'm glad that today it has happened. And I'm glad that the name that is being brought back of Mr. Modern Mayembe is a name that I will fully support as one of the board of directors. I must say that Mr. Modern Mayembe is a man of sound character. He has been committed to his work. He's mature and professional. He comes in with a lot of experience, and he is competent. And therefore, he will not fail at the board. He has a vast understanding of the ministry because he has risen on different ranks. And I must say that Mr. Modern Maembe is one person who is ready at any given time to work for the people, and he's one person who I worked with also very closely. He's one person who gave advice without fear or favor. And therefore, I have no doubt whatsoever that he will serve this board diligently, and also taking into consideration that he has a legal background. And therefore, I support that this name be ratified. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member from Pika.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to add the voice of the people I represent to this very important report by the Select Committee. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been spoken, and mine is a position that much as we can be appointing people with the requisite expertise and experience to ZNBC, for as long as we've not changed the systems, it will be very difficult for their profession to excel at the institution. We should.
There's a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, the rules of this House compel us that each time you veer off the official language, which is English, you require without fail to translate or interpret. Is a member in order not to interpret what expertise means? I seek your ruling.
Order. The Honourable Member. I think it was on a lighter note. May the Honourable Member continue.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for the protection. Mr. Speaker, what I was saying is, regardless of how experienced the people that we send to preside over ZNBC, for as long as the systems remain the same systems that put political yokes on those people, will continue having a very biased ZNBC. I'm aware that this has not started today, but there must be a time when things must change. When will we ever have a national broadcaster which can operate the way SABC in South Africa operates? We need to change the systems. We need to change the ZNBC Act and free ZNBC from political yokes. It's a national broadcaster, Mr. Chairperson. If it has to remain a national broadcaster, then it has to be freed so that all the citizens can be given space on the national broadcaster regardless of political affiliation. I have listened to the debates, and others were even citing opposition figures who have appeared on ZNBC television before, whatever it is. Are they the only citizens? Why don't we have bishops and pastors appearing on national Sunday interview? Why don't we have all manner of citizens appearing on Sunday interview? It should not just be about politicians. It should be about citizens. I also know that Mr. Maembe is very experienced. But even when we support his appointment, he will go there. He will change almost nothing. Because the systems there are tailored in that way. This is what we need to first deal with. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister of Information should leave a mark at ZNBC. It should not just be about talking, it should be about acting to reform the institution. It must be reformed. Reform ZNBC. That is what will make it a national broadcaster. Currently, it does not qualify because it's been yoked politically. We need laws that will free it from political yokes. Mr. Speaker, for as long as the status quo is maintained, then even the people that we appoint, Zambians will not appreciate them. They will not even appreciate their experience. They will not even appreciate their qualifications, because they are going to an institution that is already biased. As I support the appointment, I call for the reforms at Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation. Mr. Chairperson, I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Mfarari.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to add a few words to the motion on the floor. Firstly, may I thank the mover of the motion and the seconder for ably moving this motion. Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice to this motion and say that I support the nomination of Mr. Maembe Modern. And looking at the people that were able to that came as witnesses, I think all of them recommended that he is suitable and highly qualified for the job. Mr. Speaker, a few words to Mr. Maembe and the board of ZNBC as he assumes this position, knowing so well that he is highly supported from this House. Mr. Speaker, I take note that the ZNBC that he is going to is one which had a hangover of certain activities that were happening there. And that hangover, some of the people that brought that hangover there, or that brought that kind of handling of matters, biasness and politicizing everything, they still believe that that hangover is still there. Or that kind of attitude or doing of things is still at ZNBC. Unfortunately, if you look at the recent happenings, you realize one thing, that there is enough space now for people to participate. I saw the press briefing by the Ukwa committee. When they were doing their press briefing, they were able to be covered, and they covered openly, and they were given enough space, and I was even wondering the minutes that they were being given for them to talk. I said, is this the ZNBC that I know? So it clearly indicates that things have changed, and people are now able to participate freely. Further to that, Mr. Speaker, you realize that that space is being given. And as I speak now, I think I can challenge, including those church people, the pastors for someone and so forth, they are free to go there now. Because of the board that is there that is able to open up for every citizen of this country to ensure that he participates or has a voice to speak. Pastors are preaching from there. They are able to communicate to the public using ZNBC. So that's an achievement. But I want to bring to notice something that has caught my eye to the minister and the board as they receive Mr. Maembe. One thing that is well known about ZNBC is that there was borrowing. That was there.
Correct.
And that borrowing cannot be accounted for properly. In the sense that, as we hear that there is equipment and the ZNBC has been monetized, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, how do you go and contract contractors that bring equipment, electronic equipment that is in Chinese, and every time you want to service that equipment, you have to make a call to China for them to come and start servicing and start reprogramming, and you are proud of that.
Just imagine.
It must be, it's something that amazes me. The equipment, the minister is here, the equipment, Mr. Speaker, at ZNBC, much of it, that which is in Chinese, our technicians are unable to work and service that equipment. That was gotten at a huge sum, at a huge contract.
There's a point of order.
Under PF.
Correct.
Under the same minister. The
Order,
former
honorable
minister
member, there's a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Standing Orders 65B is very clear that the information we debate here must be factual and verifiable. Is the honorable colleague nominated member of parliament from State House constituency in order to make taken consignurations here?
Honorable member. Honorable member.
Yes, sir.
May you take your seat? Honorable member, in this house, there are 167 members. The ruling party has 84. The former ruling party has 54 or 52, I can't remember, but 52, 54, I think 54. I'm addressing the House. And there are 13 members of Parliament. It doesn't end there. The Republican President has a provision that allows him to nominate 8 members of Parliament. So, and whether you are nominated, whether you are opposition, whether you are an independent, we all enjoy our freedoms. So, it's demeaning order, it's demeaning to present or to talk about the member in a manner the way you did, that he comes from State House constituency. Why should you do that on a senior member of the House? Whoever is nominated is deserving. There are some merits that the appointing authority looked at. So let's avoid demeaning each other. It's a constitutional provision, and any member should enjoy the same liberties that you have. So going into the future, let's desist from such utterances. You may proceed with your point of order and be precise and concise.
Mr. Speaker, the honorable nominated colleague is a colleague of mine, and I wouldn't demean him in any way. I was just saying that he's a nominated member, and the authority comes from State House, sir.
Honorable member, I think I've guided you.
Well guided, Mr. Speaker. My point of order, pursuant to 65B, is he in order to make technical insinuations that the equipment at ZNBC is in Chinese and cannot be, Chinese cannot be interpreted, and therefore it's posing a challenge when he can't verify that information technically? Is in order, Mr. Speaker, because here we are to debate factually and presenting verifiable information. Is in order, sir?
Order. Honorable Member, Honorable Mfarari, let's ensure that whatever information we present on the floor is something that is verifiable and factual. So you may proceed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been to ZNBC myself. If my brother has not been there, there's what we call software in computers or in engineering. The software that you use comes with a language. If that software is in Chinese and you cannot read it, you cannot use it. That's what I'm talking about. And that's what was procured by the PF. And in your contract, these matters were even brought before this House about the contracts that were procured under the ZNBC. And that's why I said, Mr. Speaker, that the minister should take note of some of these things that I'm talking about the system that was installed at the ZNBC. Further, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that as Mr. Mayembe comes to this board, I think he has, when the committee was interviewing him, he said one thing, that we must repeal and replace the ZNBC Act, which I agree with him, because he was looking at the independence of ZNBC. And the good thing, Mr. Speaker, is that in his response, how he was going to improve the standing of ZNBC, he said that one of the good things the ministry is doing is that the act, the ZNBC Act, is being worked upon so that it can be repealed and replaced, so that ZNBC can become fully independent, by way of ensuring that their collections and the revenue that they collect are supported by the Act, the ZNBC Act. So I think it's a good thing, and I want to encourage the minister, together with his team at the Ministry of Information, that they are doing a good job by putting competent people like Mr. Muyembe, and further, that the Act, ZNBC Act, is being worked upon. There are so many acts that fail to come and see the light of the day, because they were there, the people who were there before him, before UPND, New Dawn government, were so hesitant about certain laws. But we have a government now that is able to work on ensuring that, first of all, the debt that was accrued at ZNBC has been restructured, has been part of the debt that they had to struggle with. It's a plus for the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Information and the New Dawn government, which is the UPND government, for ensuring that ZNBC is well covered in ensuring that this debt is going to be repaid. Further, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the Act itself will indeed improve the operations of ZNBC once it's repealed and replaced. I submit and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Information and Media to respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, with your greatest indulgence, allow me to begin, Mr. Speaker, by congratulating and commending His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, President Hakainde Hichilema, for a number of success stories in the area. Mr. Speaker, pushing the fight against corruption, that for the first time in 10 years, Zambia has made a mark to move from 33 ranking to 37 by Transparency International Zambia. This has been attained for the first time in more than 10 years, and therefore it means the fight against corruption is on course. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, to thank His Excellency, the President, for driving Zambia's democratic credentials so high on the global stage that Zambia is #3 thriving democratic country on the planet, democratizing country. #3, Mr. Speaker, that His Excellency President HH is one of the top 5 performing presidents on this continent. #4, Mr. Speaker, the Mopane deal, which some doomsayers, we are told by Digger's newspaper, they were praying that such would not come true. It has come true. And the economics of the Copper Belt is beginning to transform the economy of this country. #5, for debt restructuring. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important milestone for this country. And again, the doomsayers are running out of ideas on what to say, because they were saying this cannot be achieved. And lastly, on this short list, Mr. Speaker, the dual carriageway. In the next few months, works will commence. With this and many other electoral commitments made and now delivered, surely the HH ticket for another 5-year mandate has been booked. Mr. Speaker, let me come now to speak to the motion on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank you for this opportunity to speak to the appointment of Mr. Maembe to serve on the ZNBC board. In support of this recommendation, I wish to inform this August House that the nominee has a degree in Master's Communication, a degree in Law, and is admitted to the bar, and has a Master's degree in Communication and Development from the University of Zambia. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Maembe is a career civil servant who is also a communications specialist with 27 years worth of experience in media, information and communications. Mr. Maembe has expertise in management, research, designing behavioral and social change and advocacy strategies in civic and population-related issues. Mr. Maembe has wide experience in film production, skills in script writing, directing, and video editing. He is also a legal analyst, rapporteur, speech writer, and press statement writer. Mr. Speaker, as the committee has noted, Mr. Maembe has served on various technical committees, including on drafting the Zambian Constitution in 2012, and also as Chief Rapporteur for the Commission of Inquiry in Voting Patterns and Electoral Violence from 2016 to 2018. Further, Mr. Maembe has served as Chief Rapporteur for the National Dialogue Forum, NDF, in 2019. He also has extensive experience in media outreach services and development implementation of communication strategies. Mr. Speaker, the nominee is currently serving as Director of Press and Media at the Ministry of Information and Media since 2019. Mr. Speaker, Before his current appointment, you may wish to know that Mr. Mayembe previously served as Assistant Director of Press at the same media ministry, and also has served as Director of ZANIS. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Mayembe's academic and experience credentials walk ahead of him and speak for him, and that he is an unsellable nominee that I ask the House to support unanimously. Let me also take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to respond to a few issues that the honorable members have raised on the floor of this House. Amongst them, the issue raised by Honorable Kampyongo to do with this particular nominee, that is it about change of the board? Mr. Speaker, this is a replacement of Mr. Jack Kalala, who resigned from the board. So there was a vacancy there, which now this House is filling. The Mpika MP raised issues about ZNBC to be transformed into a public broadcaster. I wish to report, Mr. Speaker, to the whole House that currently the ZNBC Act, Chapter 54 of the laws of Zambia, is currently under review. And not too long ago, meetings were held at Mulungushi, at which the public were invited to inform the contents of what will be the next ZNBC board, with a view to make it and transform it into a public broadcaster with wider participation by the general public on that platform, and also to have wider say on how it is managed, and also give it commercial viability to run as a going concern. Mr. Speaker, in winding, I also wish to comment on the statements that have come from Honorable Mungandu and also Honorable Kasauta. Honorable Kasauta raised a lot of important and interesting issues to do with the operations of ZNBC. I wish to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to indicate that the new Dawn administration, through my ministry, is operating on an open door policy basis to allow members of the public who have views to come through and be able to inform how we can do things better. We recognize that without any doubt whatsoever, the way ZNBC is broadcasting right now cannot be compared to the way it was broadcasting before. That change has been registered, but much more work has to be done to ensure that the self-censorship of public media should be done away with, so that there can be more broader participation by all citizens, general citizenry, and also various stakeholders like political parties. I'm glad to report to this House, Mr. Speaker, like Honorable Kasauta has indicated, that only yesterday, ZNBC hosted Honorable Mungandu, who debated intellectually and objectively. And for as long as you go to ZNBC to debate objectively, ZNBC will give you space, the same way ZNBC used to give me space as opposition to go and debate. So that is the call to colleagues from the opposition. Now, if you are going to go to ZNBC and mislead the nation that you only needed 400 million for Mopane to run smoothly under government ownership, without realizing that at that time, Mopane was actually an asset of Glencoe. So it's Glencoe who needed 400 million. Because when government took ownership, government inherited a huge debt of 1.5 billion US dollars. Therefore, the amount that was needed to operationalize Mopane was actually 1.9 plus the 200 million, 2.1 billion. So when you go to misinform people, Mr. Speaker, like that, you will find challenges with public broadcasters because they act in the national interest to ensure that the public are not misinformed. Mr. Speaker, I ask the whole House to support the nominee. I thank you.
Thank you. May the honorable member for Siavonga wind up debate.
Sit down.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate my colleagues for the comments, the contributions, valuable contributions towards the motion. Mr. Speaker, one thing that is coming out prominently is that everyone in Zambia is wishing that ZNBC should operate with open door policy, where every citizen will be able to walk in there and be able to air their views without any interruption. And the other thing that the citizens are itching or desiring is that ZNBC should not only be prominent in Lusaka, but ZNBC should spread across this country in all the provinces. I appreciate the comments that are coming from Honorable Minister and even the responses towards those that were making comments. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I put the question. The question is that this House do adopt a report of the Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the ministerial appointment of Mr. Mubanga Modern Mayembe to serve as Director of the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation Board for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26th March 2024. As many of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary saying no. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Notice of motion. The Honourable Member for Momba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the House do adopt the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the review of the third and the fourth quarter budget performance for selected ministries, provinces, and spending agencies for the year 2023 for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on 26 March 2024.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, it is, Mr. Speaker.
Seconded by the Honourable Member for Kaflafuta. The question is that this House do adopt a report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the review of the third and fourth quarter performance of the 2023 budget for selected ministries, provinces, and spending agencies for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26th March 2024. Any debate? The Honourable Member for Momba.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Standing Order 195, 4 of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders of 2021, mandates the committee to study and report on matters related to coordination, control, and monitoring of performance of the national budget. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, the committee reviewed the budget performance for the third and fourth quarter for selected ministries, provinces, and spending agencies for 2023. Mr. Speaker, it is noteworthy that regular budget review is essential to maintaining macroeconomic and financial stability and in turn achieve long-term stability. It further provides an opportunity to adapt to changes in the economy, identify areas for improvement, and make informed decisions on the deviations from the set targets. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, it is an important instrument for improving expenditure priorities, effectiveness, and efficiency. Mr. Speaker, in the period under review, the economy faced a number of challenges. The challenges included, among others, inflation trended upwards and moved away from the 6 to 8% target band. Also, the real gross domestic product growth slowed down. The external sector was relatively subdued, and the exchange rate came under considerable pressure and it depreciated. It is noteworthy, Mr. Speaker, that non-traditional sectors were responsible for the economic growth in the second half of the year, as the mining sector continued to record low production and low copper quality. Mr. Speaker, I'm confident that my colleagues, the honourable members, have had occasion to peruse the report of the committee, and therefore I will only highlight very few certain issues. Number one, Mr. Speaker, that is the length procurement processes. The committee observes with concern that during the period under review, most of the ministries, provinces, and spending agencies failed to implement their projects. Project implementation and execution was hindered by protracted approval and procurement procedures, such as the approval of contracts by the Office of the Attorney General, among others, which impeded procurement procedures. In light of the above, Mr. Speaker, the committee recommends that the executive should, as a matter of urgency, take practical measures to unlock the subsisting procurement rigidities. More specifically, Mr. Speaker, the committee is of the view that the Ministry of Finance and National Planning, in conjunction with the Ministry of Justice...
As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes for a health break.
Good afternoon. You're still watching Parliament television. Business of the House has been suspended for a 20-minute health break, and so we expect business to resume at 17 hours. And at the time business was being suspended on the floor of the House was Momba Member of Parliament, Mr. Fred Jatila, moving a motion urging the House to adopt the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the review of the third and fourth quarter performance of the 2023 budget for selected ministries, provinces, and spending agencies for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 March 2024, a motion that has been seconded by Kafula Futa Member of Parliament, Mr. Jeffrey Mulewa. So when business resumes at 17 hours, we expect Momba Member of Parliament to continue moving this motion. And when business resumed at 14:30 hours, Mr. Second Deputy Speaker did make one announcement, and the House has so far considered a private member's motion that was moved by Kawe Central Member of Parliament, Ms. Chrysosta Halwindi. This is to introduce tree planting week, that in order to mitigate the effects of climate change, this House urges the government to introduce an annual tree planting week. And so this motion was seconded by Ron Member of Parliament, Mr. Joel Chui. And so we saw members of Parliament debating this motion. When a question was put, this motion was adopted. Still to come on the order paper, we have one committee report. We have two bills that are coming at different stages, and we also have a resumption of debate on a motion of thanks. Just now we go on a break. Remember, business of the House will resume at 17 hours. Keep watching Parliament television. Good afternoon.
I am the current Member of Parliament for Chifuru constituency. I was elected in the last election in 2021, and I came in as the new Member of Parliament for Chifuru constituency, which is on the Copper Belt in Ndola district. I started my school way back on the Copper Belt. Later on, I was transferred to a boarding school in the Northwestern Province, where I did my secondary school, junior secondary school at Kasempa Boys Secondary School. Then from there, I was selected to go and do my senior secondary school at Solwezi Technical Secondary School. Upon completion of my secondary education, I came to Ndola back to join my family. Then I started my tertiary studies at Northern Technical College, where I did my certificate in accounts and business studies. Later on, I did my diploma in accountancy. From there, I started pursuing SCCA. I did my SCCA up to the final stage. Then later on I abandoned it to pursue a bachelor's in accountants and finance with Copperstone University, which I completed, and from there I started working for Zambia College. I worked at Zambia College as a lecturer up to about 2016. That's when I thought I wanted to do a political career. Then I joined politics and contested the elections in 2016 under the UPND ticket. Then I could not pull through. However, I did not give up. I recontested in 2021 and won the seat for Chifubu, and I am the current member of Parliament for Chifubu. Chifubu constituency is one of the 4 constituencies that are in Ndola district, namely Chifubu constituency, Bwanamkubwa, Kabushi, and Ndola Central. So Chifubu constituency is located on the northern part of Ndola. We border with the DRC and share boundaries with Kaflafuta, Ndola Central, and on the other side with Kambisa. So this is the most influential constituencies on the Copper Belt. It is a constituency that has produced the vice president, later who became president of this country in the name of Lady Patrick Mwanawasa. Started as a member of parliament for Chifubu, then he was appointed again as vice president, and later on he became the Republican president of this country. So this constituency is a very, very influential constituency that should not be underrated. Who knows, anytime soon in future, it could just be a producer of another president. So Chifubu constituency is the engine of politics. The increment of CDF from 1.6 million to the current 28.3 million has brought change, particularly in my constituency. From 2022, when we received this money, we have performed tremendously. And as I stand here, I am a proud member of parliament who wants to brag that we are the best performing constituency in the country in terms of CDF utilization. We have used the CDF to the maximum extents and levels that development is unprecedented in Chifubu constituency. We have done, just in one calendar year CDF, we have performed, we have established and built a number of projects. Number one, we have done 3 clinics with maternity wing just in CDF for 2022. Tuatasha Clinic and maternity wing, as I am talking now, the project is at 98%. They are just painting and cleaning in readiness for handover to the community. We have also done Kanyanje Clinic and maternity wing. We are also doing Mutambala Clinic and maternity wing. Apart from these health facilities that we have put up, there are also other projects. Maybe before I mention other projects, I want to confirm that Chifubu constituency has been a constituency that has been saved by 3 health facilities in history since 1964. We have been serviced by 3 health facilities, namely Chipokota Mayamba, Pamozi Satyasai Clinic, and Kawama Clinic from 1964 to date. So as a member of parliament, when I was elected, I realized that it was significant for me to come in strongly to amplify on the number of health facilities for our people, since the population has grown from the time we got independence. And surely we have added 3 more clinics in Chifubu constituency. Apart from the 3 clinics and maternity wings that have been built, I'm happy also to report and announce that Chifubu constituency is currently hosting a new district hospital in Indola in the name of Chifubu District Hospital, which is currently under construction. We started the construction of this hospital last year in March. As I am talking now, it is at 90%. Maybe in the next 1 or 2 months, it should be ready for handover once again to the community. This project also adds value to the number of health facilities that have been lacking in our constituency for the past 50+ years in history. And today I'm a proud member of parliament. As I stand here, I will remain as an icon of this constituency politically by leaving unprecedented number of health facilities to improve on the health of our people in the constituency, putting up 3 clinics and a district hospital, to which I'm saying in CDF 2023 and 2024 we intend to add 2 more clinics, one in Mitengo, another one at Chimbotela in Pamozi, and also upgrade the Satyasai clinic to the main hospital with time. So these have brought a lot of joy and delight to our people in the constituency. Apart from these, we have also rebuilt the Chifubu local court that was gutted by fire 5 years ago. And this has been a cry of so many residents in Chifubu constituency that the court had been operating without the ablution block. We have rebuilt the administrative block that was gutted by fire in Chifubu constituency, and we have also added another courtroom, to which we are saying we will be the first among the remaining 3 constituencies to host a new magistrate court in Chifubu constituency, and it is at about 80% completion, and soon or later it will be completed and it will be handed over to the community. Following the directive by His Excellency the President, Mr. Kainde Ichilema, of course, to buy desks for schools. From CDF 2022, we bought 800 desks that have been distributed to all the schools in Chifubu constituency. There has been no school that has not benefited from this robust program for replenishing the desks in the schools we have given. And again, in 2023, we are buying some more 1,000 desks to be given to the schools. Apart from the desks, we have also done a market shelter and an ablution block at Chitimukulu Market. Chitimukulu Market has been trading for the last 50 years without a toilet, without a market shelter, and our people have been suffering. We thought it prudent, together with the CDF committee, WDC committees, and members of the public, that we needed to erect a market shelter and put up a befitting ablution block for our people at Chitimukulu, which has successfully been done, and we are adding value to the constituents. I know that as we move forward, Chifubu constituency by the end of 5 years will no longer be the same constituency I found in more dilapidated state. I'm sure it is amplifying in terms of development. Apart from the market shelter, we have also done 2 1x3 classroom block, one at Pamozi Combined School, another one at Kaniki Combined School. These are almost at 90% completion. Soon, in the next few weeks, they will also be handed over. Chifubu constituency has had no police post around the market. Yes, there was a makeshift police post that was put up, but they operated under very poor conditions. We thought it prudent that we needed to put up a police post around the market, and we have constructed a police post at a cost of 1.6 million kwacha, which is almost at 85% complete. This police post is coming in. This police post is coming in with very distinctive and unique features, including our own mother station, Chifubu Police Station, has only 1 set of cells, but this police post is coming with 2 sets of cells, one for the juvenile, one for the juvenile, another one for the males and females. and it is a very beautiful structure. Once completed, it will add value, it will curb crime, it will give protection to the heavy investment for our constituents, which is based around the business trading center, which is our main market within Chifubu constituency. I want to thank the people of Chifubu for giving me a try to save them. And I believe that the rate at which I am accelerating development in the constituents, they have no doubt that they made the right choice. We have brought development. Once again, I want to thank the people of Chifubu for their patience, encouragement, and the unique desire of willingness to work together with me as a member of parliament and embarking on the developmental journey to transform Chifubu constituents to become an ultra-modern constituency in terms of development that will compete with a committee of other developed constituencies in our country by being one of the biggest constituencies in terms of development. I want to confirm that Chifubu constituency is currently in the Developmental Champions League. By the end of 10 years, Chifubu will be the best constituency in Zambia.
My full names are Kabaso Kampampi, Member of Parliament for Mwansabombwe constituency. I was born in 1976, 9th May, in Mwansabombwe to be particular. I was raised up in Mwansabombwe. I started my school in Mwansabombwe, grade 1 up to grade 7. From grade 7 I passed to Kawamba Boys, where I did my secondary school from grade 8 up to grade 12. I completed my school in 1995. From there, those years, there used to be this thing of untrained teaching. I had to do UT, so it was called for 2 years. Then from there, I came to Ivry College, where I did my marketing. I'm a marketer by profession, and I'm currently pursuing my CIM, Chartered Institute of Marketing. I'm married with 4 children, 2 girls and 2 boys. Mwansabombwe, it's a constituency which is about 940 kilometers away from Lusaka. It's a constituency which is about
Good afternoon. You're still watching Parliament television. We expect business of the House to resume at 17 hours. At the time, business was suspended at 16:40 hours for a 20-minute health break. On the floor of the House was a Member of Parliament, Mr. Fred Jatila, moving a motion urging the House to adopt the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the review of the 3rd and 4th quarter performance of the 2023 budget for selected ministries, provinces and spending agencies for the 3rd session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 March 2024. A motion that has been seconded by Kafulafuta Member of Parliament, Mr. Jeffrey Mulebwa. And so when business resumes at 17 hours, we expect Member of Parliament, Mr. Fred Jatila, to continue moving this motion. Still to come on the order paper, we have one committee report, and this one will be moved by Mulovezi, Member of Parliament, Engineer Raphael Mabenga, urging the House to adopt the report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies on the ratification of the International Agreement of the African Telecommunications Union Constitution and Convention for the 3rd session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 March 2024. Still to come, we also expect the House to consider two bills that are coming at different stages. The first one is the Constituency Development Fund Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2023, which is coming at a second reading stage. We also expect the House to consider the Animal Identification and Traceability Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2024, which is coming at a report stage. After consideration of those two bills, we expect a resumption of debate on a motion of thanks, His Excellency the President's address, a motion of 19th March 2024 that was moved by Chama South Member of Parliament, Mr. Davison Mungandu, that the thanks of this Assembly be recorded for the exposition of the public policy contained in His Excellency the President's address. And when business resumed at 14:30, Mr. Second Deputy Speaker did make one announcement in which she recognized the presence in the public gallery of pupils. Just now we take you to the floor of the House. Good afternoon. You are still tuned in to Parliament Television. Bells are ringing. It seems we don't have a quorum in the House. It is a requirement that 1/3 of members of Parliament must be present in the House for any business to transact. And so once the quorum is formed, we expect business to resume. And at the time, business of the House was suspended at 16:40 hours for a 20-minute health break. It was Momba Member of Parliament, Mr. Fred Jatila, moving a motion urging the House to adopt the report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the review of the third and fourth quarter performance of the 2023 budget for selected ministries, provinces and spending agencies for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 March 2024, a motion that has been seconded by Kafula Futa Member of Parliament, Mr. Jeffrey Mulewa. And so once the quorum is formed, we expect business of the House to resume. When business resumed at 14:30, Mr. Second Deputy Speaker did recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Betuz School in Lusaka District. Mr. Second Deputy Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, warmly welcomed the visitors to the National Assembly, and the House has so far considered one private member's motion. This was moved by Kabwe Central Member of Parliament, Ms. Chrysosta Halwindi, and it was seconded by Ron Member of Parliament, Mr. Joel Chibuye. This was titled Introduce Tree Planting Week, that in order to mitigate the effects of climate change, this House urges the government to introduce an annual tree planting week. And so we saw members of Parliament debating this motion. When a question was put, this motion was adopted. The House has also so far considered one committee report that was moved by Siavonga Member of Parliament, Mr. Dalius Molunda, urging the House to adopt the report of the Parliamentary Select Committee appointed to scrutinize the ministerial appointment of Mr. Mangamoden Mayambe to serve as Director of the Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation ZNBC Board for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 March 2024, and this motion was seconded by Chama South Member of Parliament, Mr. Davison Mungandu, and this motion has also since been adopted. Still to come, we expect one more committee report. This will be moved by Mulovezi Member of Parliament, Engineer Raphael Mabenga, urging the House to adopt the report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies on the ratification of the International Agreement of the African Telecommunications Union Constitution and conversion for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday. Just now we take you to the floor.
When business was suspended, the House was considering report on Planning and Budget Committee on the review of the third and fourth quarter performance of the 2023 for selected ministries, provinces and spending agencies. and the Honorable Member for Momba was moving the motion. May the Honorable Member continue.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to continue reading from where I ended. Mr. Speaker, more specifically, the committee is of the view that the Ministry of Finance and National Planning, in conjunction with the Ministry of Justice, should formulate standard contract templates to streamline procurement processes and also set threshold amounts for contracts that should be approved by the Ministry of Justice and by the respective ministries, provinces, and spending agencies. Number two, Mr. Speaker, is the issue to do with the timely funding of the ministries. The committee commends the executive for fully funding all the ministries, provinces, and spending agencies. This notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, receipt of funds was occasionally delayed, resulting in delayed project implementation. The committee further observes that the Treasury disburses funds on a monthly basis, commensurate to revenue collections. The committee observes with concern that the Ministry of Finance and National Planning has not been disbursing funds as per the monthly profiles. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, this contributed to misapplication of funds and extended undue pressure on the ministries, provinces, and spending agencies to expend funds promptly to avert mopping of funds by the Treasury. The committee urges the executive, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that funds are disbursed timely and consistently as the monthly profiles. The committee further recommends that the executive should be prompt in considering and approving requests for variation of funds to avoid funds being returned to the Treasury at the close of the year. The committee, Mr. Speaker, further recommends that in instances where funds are disbursed a few days before the close of the year, the executive should waive the mopping out of funds. Number three, Mr. Speaker, is to do with the review and monitor tax expenditures. Mr. Speaker, the committee observes that although the government has offered a number of tax exclusions, exemptions, and preferential tax rates, among other tax expenditures, the committee was informed that these have not accrued envisaged and commensurate benefits to the citizens. The committee further observes that beneficiaries of tax expenditure often change their company names and operate structures at the expiry of their tax holidays to avert paying of taxes. In light of the foregoing, Mr. Speaker, the committee strongly recommends that the executive should start reporting to the National Assembly on a quarterly basis the benefits accrued from the various tax expenditures. Furthermore, the executive should put in place a robust monitoring and review mechanism of the tax expenditure before and after issuance. Number four, Mr. Speaker, operationalize the monitoring and evaluation framework for local authorities. Mr. Speaker, the committee noted that the monitoring and evaluation framework for local authorities had not been operationalized. Furthermore, the committee notes with concern that while the quantum of constituency-owned fund has increased, council staff lack the requisite capacity to manage the funds and that the staff establishments have remained unchanged. The committee is dismayed that there is no structured mechanism to assess the performance of the utilization of the constituency-owned fund across the various constituencies. In light of the above, Mr. Speaker, the executive should, as a matter of agency, operationalize the monitoring and evaluation framework for local authorities, formulate the relevant staff establishments, and ensure staff have the requisite capacity to manage the constituency-owned fund. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the executive should put in place a verifiable mechanism to assess the performance of the utilization of the constituency-owned fund across the various constituencies, and also to report on the capital expenditure that is effected from the Ministry of Local Government and the Rural Development, such as the purchase of constituency monitoring vehicles and those for the police. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I would like to request the House to adopt the report of the committee. I further, on behalf of the committee, and indeed on my own behalf, wish to thank you and the Office of the Clerk for your guidance and support throughout the committee deliberations. Let me also pay tribute to all the stakeholders who made both oral and written submission to the committee. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kaflafuta.
Mr. Speaker, in seconding the motion that has been ably moved by the chairperson of the committee, urging the House to adopt the report of your committee, that gives an analysis of performance of 2023 budget for selected ministries, provinces, and spending agencies, which was laid on the floor of the House on the 26th of March, 2024. I will now comment on a few issues that were not covered by the chairperson. Mr. Speaker, the committee notes that the contracts or the contractors that have been hired to work on construction sites, most of the times when the contract is done, they do not surrender the sites that they would have been operating from. It has also been noted that some of the equipment and materials used during the contraction have not been handed over to the government. It is for this reason that the committee strongly urges government to ensure that whatever was at the site, the materials and the machinery, is monitored and recovery after every contract. The committee also notes that we base our inflation on food basket, and the committee feels that this has kind of been disadvantaging to come up with an accurate way of determining inflation, seeing that the last subsisting food basket was conducted early 2000, which now with years that have passed, a lot has been missed, and this system will distort the system. The committee also notes that as a country or as a nation, we are lagging in technology, and it is for this reason that the committee highly recommends that the government heavily invests in technologies to enable us as a country move at the right pace so that we are not left behind in our development. And in my conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the committee also feels that the executive ought to prioritize investment in technology to strengthen the legal and policy framework. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, allow me to join the mover of the motion in urging the House to adopt the report of the committee and to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for according us the opportunity to serve on this important committee. I also wish to thank the members of your committee for affording me the opportunity to second the motion. I thank you.
Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Lunte.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for the opportunity to offer a little thoughts on this, on the adoption of this report. which has been ably moved by my honorable colleague, Honorable Chatila, and of course seconded by my honorable colleague there. Mr. Speaker, budget performance relates to how you plan and execute the budget. Somewhere I was told that a budget is a plan, and to make a meaningful plan, you need to identify critical success factors, assess them for their properties, and make the plan in full cognizance of the influence of those critical success factors on that plan. Then you execute, and then you try to monitor and evaluate performance, which the committee was doing. Mr. Speaker, I want to be very relevant to this report. On page 9, the committee scrutinizes the performance of the Ministry of Science and Technology. And here is what they say. Stakeholders informed the committee that the budget allocations of approximately 0.8% of the national budget during the period under review fell short of the required resources to implement interventions aimed at achieving set targets on key areas. Mr. Speaker, the ministry has targets. The ministry knows very well the key areas of success. And then, when it came to the budget itself, the ministry is given insufficient funds so that they are unable to actually achieve those objectives. That is poor planning. And when you plan poorly, you don't expect to succeed in achieving your objectives. Mr. Speaker, we'll move on. On page 10, the committee assesses the performance of the Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. Here is what the committee says. Stakeholders informed the committee that during the period under review, targets under housing were not achieved due to delayed payments and escalating prices of building materials following the unprecedented devaluation of the kwacha against other convertible currencies. Mr. Speaker, honorable members on this floor of the House have been lamenting the depreciation of the kwacha. But oftentimes, these complaints about the devaluation of the kwacha are watered down because some people feel these are politics. Your committee today is telling us that the contractors were unable to execute works because of unprecedented depreciation of the kwacha. Mr. Speaker, I hear a question, and this is the attitude in this House, of questioning even what your own committee has established before honorable members of parliament who comprise ordinary MPs like myself and ministers like Honorable Nkanduye. Mr. Speaker, this attitude must come to an end. This information must provide direction. For me, I want Honorable Msokotwane to succeed. If there's a minister I wish to succeed, he is the Honorable Minister of Finance, because he used to mentor me, okay, when he was still sober. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I move on to page 12. I move on to page 12. Mr. Speaker, I now speak about the Copper Belt province. Here is what your committee members have said. The committee was informed that the province was fully funded, even though much of the funds were received in November 2023. The committee was further informed that the provincial administration had challenges to supervise programs implementation, as most of the ministries had their own budgets and work plans which were not synchronized with the provincial administration. Mr. Speaker, we normally, Mr. Speaker, we normally sit here with our colleagues, the ministers. The ministers are here, including the minister from Copper Belt province, and yet they can't supervise programs.
Order, there's a point of order.
I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on a serious point of order, section number 65 of our standing orders, Mr. Speaker. Section. Mr. Speaker, section. Standing order number 65.
65
the Minister of Finance.
65 what?
65B.
All right. Okay.
Content of speech. The current Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance is seated listening to the debate, reflecting on the achievements he has scored in these 2 years as a minister. The 2 years have been 2 years and a half has been as a minister. And the current debater, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Lunte, Mr. Kafuaya, draws him in his debate, accusing him that the minister is no longer sober.
He said what?
The minister is no longer sober, meaning he's working under the influence of alcohol. Is in order, Mr. Speaker, to accuse our hard-working minister, who has called the debt restructuring, Mr. Speaker, who has secured money to ensure that the Ndola, or the Lusaka Ndola dual carriageway starts being done coming the next month. The minister who has called the investment into Mupani, which has made the people of Kankoyo today very happy. And he is also sorting out KCM very soon. There'll be an announcement on KCM. Now the minister of the Member of Parliament for Lunte accuses him of no longer being sober and being drunk. Is in order, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
No, let me rule. I render my ruling. I think, one, let's avoid putting each other in the context of debate. We don't debate each other. It's true this House is very excited with what the minister has achieved, but let's avoid putting him into the context of our debate. Every Zambian should be happy. Yes, but let's avoid doing that. As you can see, yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, the MP for Kankoyo can never mentor me. Honorable Dr. Musokotwani can. Mr. Speaker, failure to supervise programs by the Copper Belt province is shameful. Okay? It is shameful, and I say so with a very heavy heart. Simply because, as the committee puts it here, resources are both insufficient and also delivered to the province late. And I think if I were a Copper Belt minister, I would be serious on this one. No, I don't want to go backwards. Mr. Speaker, in the Copper Belt, as the report puts it, the trees are being cut indiscriminately. And earlier we were discussing climate change vis-a-vis a private member's motion. It was about planting of trees. And here we are being told the Copper Belt province cannot monitor these programs, some of which are aimed at ensuring that trees are not indiscriminately cut. Mr. Speaker, if one minister is saying question, I will be okay. But the minister from Copper Belt, Mr. Speaker, it's sad because he's the one who is the subject of this.
Honorable member, we don't debate each other.
I've stopped. I'll move on. Mr. Speaker,
I've guided you. May you take your seat? May you take your seat? The tendency of trying to bring your colleagues, the honorable members, into your debate will not take the House anywhere. And senior members are the ones that make the mistakes the most. So desist from bringing your honorable members into your debate. You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, the Copperbelt province has a minister, and that position is a public position. And here in the report, Copperbelt province is the issue. Is the issue, and I'll move on from there.
Honorable Kafuaya.
Yes, sir.
You are debating the report. What has got the minister to do with the report?
Here, it's in the report.
He was not mentioned as an office minister.
Let me read it. Stop the time I read it, Mr. Chairman. Oh, stop the time I read it for you to see that it is here.
I've guided you. Stop bringing the minister into the context of your debate. Restrict yourself to the report. Because the minister is not a spending agency. It just oversees policies.
Spending agencies are the ones who monitor.
Honorable member, desist from involving the minister. You can continue, but desist from involving the minister in your debate.
Mr. Chairman, the Minister of Finance must fund Copperbelt province on time and adequately. In his planning, he must make sure that there's enough money going to Copperbelt province so that there's no excuse of deforestation and the Copperbelt province saying we cannot monitor on account of lack of money, on account of money coming late. Mr. Speaker, these are excuses which must never exist at this time when our people require a safe environment to live in. I wish to thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The Honorable Mfarari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the mover and the seconder of the motion, and I'm pleased that looking at the report, in the review report of the budgets of 2023, Q3 and Q4, I realized one thing, that there is consistency in funding to the MPAs, and it's a good thing. In short, Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying is that if you look at the report, you realize one thing, that there is serious consistency, and the approved budgets are actually on target, contrary to what we saw in the previous years, back then when we were under the leadership of the PF. Mr. Speaker, looking at this report, it gives a clear indication of the prudence in management of public resources. And I want to thank the Minister of Finance for the job well done and for the job that he is doing together with his team at the Ministry of Finance. Because this gives us an indication of a prudent manager, it gives us an indication of accountability, it gives us an indication that in line with Transparency International, which has rated us as one of the countries with less corruption, or which is improving in terms of corruption, we are seeing this because of these managers that we have. Mr. Speaker, if you look at, I've looked at the ministries that are mentioned here, and all of them have actually, the sampled ministries have actually been able to receive all the monies that were approved by this House, and that's a plus to the ministry because this is what we needed. Coming to the delay, which I think they are talking about, I think if you look at it, and even on the recommendation from the committee, the committee is saying that there must be improvement in terms of ensuring that either they open it up so that the monies are not mopped up. But what we know and what is there is that these ministries and these provinces are able to apply to the Secretary to Treasury. And I have not seen anywhere from where I'm sitting where the Secretary to Treasury has refused for people to withhold these monies for them to ensure that their projects are completed without haste or without them going out of their way to be mobbed. Those ministries and those spending agencies that have the monies that are coming from the Control 99, I think they lose their money if they don't apply. But when they apply, they actually manage to institute or complete their projects. The other observation I have, Mr. Speaker, is on the debt restructuring and the performance of the Kwacha. Once again, I want to recommend or to commend the Ministry of Finance, which is in charge of all these monies, in them ensuring that our currency is performing well. So far, so good. The inflation rate has been brought to levels that are acceptable. We know that the inflation has gone up to 24%, but now it's hovering around 13%, 13.5%. And the target for 2023 was to ensure that they maintain the inflation rate on a single digit. But I think looking at the work that they had to work on, that is ensuring that debt is restructured, to ensure that the mines start operating. This was quite a lot of work. But regardless of all those hindrances, you realize, Mr. Speaker, that the ministry performed very well, and they deserve to be commended for the job that they have been doing. The other observation that the committee looked at was on the procurement, and this is coming from the stakeholders. I think the President has been to this House and talked about ensuring that the rigidities in procurement are ironed out, and ensure that those who must procure, they should be able to procure on time. All those rigidities that are coming in because of the laws that we have, I think it's something that we are very much aware that they will be worked on, and ensure that the procurement is done on time. The performance of the Kwacha, of the Kwacha, Mr. Speaker, now we know that this Kwacha would definitely perform very well. In the sense that the mines that have not been performing, that have been cited in this report, that due to mines' failure to perform well, big mines, that is, the Kwacha was under pressure because there was very little inflows, dollar inflow into the market. But now, with the coming in of Mopani, with the coming in of some of these greenfields that came in immediately, the New Dawn government came into office, I think we will see a positive result and a positive turn in terms of ensuring that our Kwacha performs very well. And further to that, Mr. Speaker, this budget clearly, or the budget review of 2023, which is quarter 3 and 4, it clearly indicates prudence, clearly indicates credibility from the managers that are sitting in those offices. And Mr. Speaker, I want to urge them to continue working very hard and continue doing what they are doing best, because this is how the country should be managed. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Chinga. The Honourable Member for Sinazongwe.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity given to just add very few words on this report. Mr. Speaker, we are looking at where we are coming from as a nation, and even the past reports that this House has received, and where we are today, the latest report. We have to compare and contrast. We see whether there is progress or retrogression. What the people of Senazongo have noticed, Mr. Speaker, is that there is a lot of progress in how the public resources are being utilized. As we know, Mr. Speaker, that challenges are there. That is very, very true. You look at what is what has been reviewed by the report pertaining to the happens on the copper belt and forestry. Yes, challenges are there, but there is a lot of progress when we compare where we're coming from. Yes, there has been a lot of highlights pertaining to how projects were affected because of the devaluation of Kwacha. But it won't help us, Mr. Speaker, to pretend that the country was not under their stress. We know the state of the economy of the Kwacha, over the country, where the UPND government found it. Definitely, with the way it was bleeding, it would be logical for anyone, Mr. Speaker, to think of the Kwacha gaining when the economy was poorly performing was due to the high debt that we found the country in. But a lot of strides, Mr. Speaker, going forward. We know even under CDF, a lot of projects are affected because of the price indices, which hasn't been stable. But looking at the way the Kwacha has gained because of the hard-working Minister of Finance, by getting a 3.5 billion debt restructuring, it will see stability on the Kwacha. Therefore, some of the challenges that has been highlighted by the committee will be a thing of the past. Coming to the deliberation by the committee, Mr. Speaker, where they talked of the staffing levels in local authorities. Yes, Mr. Speaker, staffing levels can be low, but what have we done as a country, Mr. Speaker, in trying to build the capacity in our local authorities? We have capable people in these local authorities. It's high time that we invested in capacity building, looking at the responsibilities that we have given the local authorities. It is not a joke, Mr. Speaker, that a local authority this time around can be given a colossal sum of 30 million, which most councils, Mr. Speaker, have never seen. So we need to do a lot of capacity building so that at least, even when we are blaming these local authority workers, at least we would have given them enough teeth to perform to the government's expectation. With these very few words, Mr. Speaker, I support the report. Thank you so much.
The Honourable Member for Mapashe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a technical subject that requires a deeper analysis and understanding. Dr. Msokotwane, as Minister of Finance, in the other term is described as the superior among the equal. And Minister, as you execute the functions of Minister of Finance and National Planning, avoid and you need to avoid to listen to unnecessary praising us without understanding the technical, otherwise they'll mislead you. The Minister, the budget as defined, I know it's a very technical subject, the budget as designed, it is a plan that identifies the critical success factors, assesses them for their properties, make the plan in full cognizance of their influence on the plan. These are very key, the Minister, and then we go to how we are going to execute this plan. And then the last will be monitoring and evaluation. Minister, I have listened even from your committee. They are trying to help you to succeed, except if we want to politics without reading a report, we can even go to the opening of the mine, which has nothing to do with this report. The debt restructuring, which has nothing to do with this report, Minister. The Minister, if you check, specifically, Mr. Speaker, we come to the page number 9, you see how late releases of funding impacted negatively on the Ministry of Technology and Science. Mr. Speaker, the report is saying at the close of the year, 2.4 billion kwacha was not spent, and it was moved back to the Ministry of Finance. You can get worried, Minister, the service delivery of the honorable members of Parliament and the community who would have benefited from these services that would have been delivered if this money was released on time. And I know others will say the question, members of Parliament have been calling for the communication towers in various constituencies, but because probably money could have been released on 30th December, the way it happened to CDF, and the minister had no time to spend this money. And then the following day, it went back to the treasury. And then we stand here and said, no, we want to commend the Minister of Finance for adequately releasing the funding as planned. If it can't benefit the people, if we can't use it. So we need to begin analyzing, Minister, and then you need to put your staff to check to make sure that if the profile by various ministries and spending agencies, monthly profiles, are sent to the Secretary to Treasury, they must be released so that people in Nabwari, people in Chitotera, people in Kaputa who are looking for those services that will benefit them, they'll be able to benefit. Otherwise, we'll sit here and sing praises, but if it is not triggering down to the people, I know macroeconomists and microeconomists are two different things. That's why we need in your ministry, Minister, look for a development economist who must be able to speak to the things that affect the people on the ground. Macro indicators can be very good. Zambia can be rated to be among the top 10 countries in the world, but if macro indicators cannot trickle down to the people at micro level and social level, then it will be building the house in the castle. It is wealth that benefits nobody. I know it's a very technical subject. This is not social science. This is not geography. This is economist, Mr. Speaker. And I understand that the Minister for Finance understands how critical it is to have funds released on time for the benefit of the people. That is when we can unlock the potential. When money is going to my mother in Kaputa, in Shiwadia, then there will be activities. Then that way we'll be able to fight poverty. It is not social science, yes. So I know a lot of social scientists, Mr. Speaker, will be able to echoing, no, this is not social science. This is economics. These are figures, you need to understand them. Mr. Speaker, I want to come to the Ministry of Local Government. And of course, that's why you've heard even it has been cited. And this is a practical example. You're a member of Parliament. Today, as we are speaking, constituencies across Zambia, Mr. Speaker, that is when we are beginning to start implementing funding for 2023. Because the total funding was released on 30th December 2023. And now you can see the lost opportunity that the 25 million kwacha would have created in 2023 for the people in various constituencies. It is not there. Now, and then we stand here and said, no, the councils lack capacity. How did you expect the councils to implement the 2023 CDF projects without funding? How? So we must be able first to deal with the problems. The Minister, I understand, the economy is very small and we seem to be in a hurry to share what Honorable Dora Syria one day in this parliament referred it was poverty.
instead of first looking at ways and means of creating wealth and then we begin sharing. That's why we are busy expanding social spending without growing the economy. I know you may be choking. You may be choking the minister. If we don't first grow the economy and then we start sharing, I understand the difficulties you may have where to get the money to share. That's why this is an indication, this is an indictment that the country is having challenges in terms of revenue collection. That's why at the end of the year, you mop up all the monies and then you send it to the spending agents. Then in the beginning of the year, they have not spent, you call back the money. This is an indictment on all of us. We must support the minister first to grow the economy, then we can go to social spending. But we are doing things upside down. We are busy with social spending without growing the economy. With these ways, Mr. Speaker, I support the report and I hope the chairperson would have been very categorical to say tax exemption is revenue losses. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the committee that presented the report. I also want to thank all the debaters. I would like to thank the Committee on Planning and Budgeting for producing this detailed report on the review of the third and fourth quarter performance of the 2023 budget for selected ministries, provinces, and agencies for the third session of the 13th National Assembly. This review is important because it enables the Treasury to get feedback on the macro fiscal performance and interventions that could be taken to improve the credibility of the budget and to ultimately enhance service delivery to the citizens. I've taken note of the observations raised by the committee regarding delayed, and I underline the word delayed disbursement of funds to government institutions. I would also like to assure the House that the Treasury will work to ensure timely disbursement of funds to credit guarantee schemes, which will enable affordable financing to micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. This will, in fact, catalyze growth in the domestic economy through the issuance of credit guarantees to those people who don't have sufficient collateral. Mr. Speaker, I've taken note of the committee's recommendation that the executive should start reporting to the National Assembly on the benefits accrued from the various tax expenditures, and that the executive should put in place a robust monitoring and review mechanism to ensure compliance. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to inform this House that government has taken significant steps to address these issues. As part of our commitment to transparency and fiscal responsibility, we will generate the first ever tax expenditure report later this year. Said on the floor, I come back to the issue of delayed funding. Yes, in certain cases, there have been some delayed funding. But we must also recognize, Mr. Speaker, that in many cases, funding has been right on time. For example, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to funding schools, so that the children can go into school and go in boarding, that is normally done on time. And most of the time, actually, that funding even is delivered before the schools open. The school grants, Mr. Speaker, the school grants have not just been enhanced from previously something like 300 kwacha per month. Now certain schools can even go as far as 20,000, 30,000 per term. These school grants are on time. But it is also important, Mr. Speaker, to say that even for those elements which are delayed, what the committee has not said is to say funding does not take place. Funding does take place. And it's important, Mr. Speaker, that we recognize progress which has been made, say, for example, from the time of the previous government of PF. I say so, Mr. Speaker, because you remember on several occasions, those who were in this House in the last session, on 5 occasions, this House appropriated money for CDF year after year. Money was appropriated for CDF for 5 years. How many times was the money released? I think twice or something like that. Honorable Totela says 3 times, I can't remember. So, or 2.5, whatever it was. So, Mr. Speaker, these are important improvements that we should not gloss over. Because having something, having all the money that have been appropriated is very different from having zero of the money that has been appropriated. So, Mr. Speaker, it's important that we recognize progress when it has been made. And as far as I'm concerned, when we said we'll put up money to hire 30,000 teachers, money was delivered and 30,000 teachers were delivered. Mr. Speaker, last year when we said we're going to put up money to hire 4,000 teachers, money was put forward and 4,000 teachers were hired. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, on a number of occasions on this floor of the House, colleagues here, they have indicated very clearly that the fundings that ministries receive these days, it is almost spot on. So the history of appropriation being made and failing to deliver the cash, that is now history. So, Mr. Speaker, I thought it was very important that even as we recognize problems, which is correct, we should not shy away from recognizing the improvements. And this government, under President Hichilema, the improvements have definitely been there in terms of delivering funds that Parliament has appropriated. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that even in cases where money has been delivered late, how many of you colleagues have had your CDF money which may have been delivered late? The last portion of it, by the way, all the quotas are normally delivered on time. It's the fourth quarter that is delivered late. But how many of us here have had our CDF withdrawn because the Treasury has recalled the money? None of us. So the money has been carried forwards into the next year. This is yet another example where we need to be truthful and where we need to recognize where improvements have been made. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you.
The Honourable Member for Momba wind-up debate.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, and honourable members, thank you very much for your support. I do recognize the input which has come from Honourable Kafaya, Honourable Mufalali, Honourable Sialubalo, Honourable Chitwatela, and indeed the second of the motion, Honourable Murebwa, and the response is done by the Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important topical issue. And Mr. Speaker, for your information, I've been in this committee since 2016. And when you talk about the improvements in terms of the disbursements to the ministries, Mr. Speaker, in the last 2 years we have seen massive improvements. Yeah. To the tune of some ministries getting 100%, 95, 98. And as the minister said, this never used to happen in a long time. And this was that maybe the country is moving in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, I want also to put it on record that, Mr. Speaker, on a serious note, this is the Honourable House. And Mr. Speaker, you find, if I was to call someone that when this member was sober, that for me was very heavy. And I think it's just right that members like Honourable Kafaya, as is talking there, Mr. Speaker, we really need to be moderate. Correct. The way we address one another. And this is a brother advice to everyone. Correct. Because we are in this house as honourable members of this house. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for the efforts that which you have done to respond to some of these issues that which the committee has raised. And it is my sincere hope that going forward, the recommendations that which have been done by the committee will be considered seriously so that we improve the welfare of our people. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank the members once again for their support to this effort that which the committee did. I submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Order. I put the question. The question is that this House do adopt a report of the Planning and Budgeting Committee on the review of third and fourth quarter performance of the 2023 budget for selected ministries, provinces, and spending agencies for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26th March 2024. As many of that opinion say aye, of the contrary say no, the ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Notice of motion. The Honourable Member for Mlowezi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that this House do adopt the report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies on the ratification of the International Agreement of the African Telecommunications Union Constitution and Convention for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on 26 March 2024.
Is the motion seconded?
I second, Mr. Speaker.
Seconded by the Honourable Member for Milanzi. I put the question that this House do adopt a report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communications Technology on the ratification of the international agreement of the African Telecommunications Union Constitution and Convention for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26th March 2024. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Mlowezi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Right from the outset, I wish to put it on record that the committee is in support of the proposal to ratify the Constitution and the Convention of the
Honorable members, where are you going?
Union.
Order, Honorable Member for Mlowezi. Members are busy trooping out. Are you going for another assembly outside? Let's ensure that we participate, all of us. Let's be here. May the Honorable Member for Mlowezi continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As it will strengthen the collaboration and the cooperation among African countries. Mr. Speaker, as the Honorable members have already read through the report, allow me to only highlight a few of the salient issues contained herein. Madam Speaker, this House may be aware that Zambia is a founding member of the African Telecommunications Union, established on 7th December 1977 as a specialized agency in the field of telecommunications for the then Organization for African Unity, now called the African Union. This August House may wish to note that all the stakeholders who appeared before the committee were in support of the ratification of the African Telecommunications Union because of the main benefits which will accrue to Zambia. Mr. Speaker, the committee notes that the African Telecommunications Union seeks to promote the development and the adoption of appropriate African telecommunications and ICT policy and regulatory framework. In this regard, the committee is of the view that ratifying the agreement will align with Zambia's national aspiration of transforming into a digital economy. The expected outcomes of the transformation are efficient service delivery and improvements in resource mobilization and allocation. Mr. Speaker, the committee observes that by ratifying the ATU Constitution and the Convention, Zambia will demonstrate her commitment to the Union and its goals. As a country committed to the virtues of transparency and the good internet governance, Zambia will boost investor confidence, which will result in more investment in the country's telecommunications sector for the increased economic growth. Interestingly, one of the benefits of ratifying the ATU Constitution and the Convention is improved internet governance, a program championed by the Union. This open internet initiative promotes the network interoperability concept in which information across the World Wide Web is equally free and available without variance that depend on the financial motives of internet service providers. This will ensure that equal and fair access to information on the World Wide Web, thereby allowing full participation by many Zambians in accessing information and engagement in meaningful discourse. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the committee also observes that ratifying the Constitution and the Convention will lead to improved international visibility. As a coordination and unifying entity, the Union will champion the African voice
at international fora when coming up with new standards for equipment and devices in the telecommunications sector. Therefore, by ratifying the Constitution and the Convention, Zambia will leverage on the bloc solidarity and the benefits from increased influence and international visibility to enhance her international profile in the telecommunications sector. Ratification of the ATU Constitution and the Convention will guarantee technical assistance for Zambia in the area of telecommunications and ICT from the regional and the international community. Therefore, participation at this global level will provide opportunities for Zambia to attract potential investors in the telecommunications and ICT sector. Mr. Speaker, the committee notes that Zambia's digital transformation agenda will be enhanced because of the work of the ATU aligns with the National Electronic Governance Plan and the 8th National Development Plan. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, permit me to express my sincere gratitude to you and to the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly for the guidance and support rendered to the committee during its deliberations. The committee is also indebted to all stakeholders who appeared before it for their cooperation in providing the necessary memoranda that formed the committee's report. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I urge all members to join the committee in supporting the ratification of the ATU Constitution and the Convention. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Milanzi.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to say thank you for giving the people of Milanzi an opportunity to second this motion before this August House. May I also say thank you to the mover of the motion and chairperson of your committee, Honorable Engineer Rafa Mabenga, for the able manner in which he presided over the deliberations as well as highlighted the pertinent issues raised in the committee's report. Mr. Speaker, considering that honorable members are privy to what is contained in the report, I will restrict myself to 3 issues. May I draw your attention, Mr. Speaker, to the issue on sovereignty of the Republic. The committee was cognizant of the fact that when it comes to international agreements or conventions, sovereignty of the Republic must be considered. The committee considered Article 15 of the Constitution on Sovereign Rights of Member States of the Union. The committee therefore urges the government to ratify the Constitution and Convention because the sovereignty of the Republic is guaranteed in as far as development and regulation of ICTs is concerned. The second issue, Mr. Speaker, is that of nominating candidates for elective positions. The committee further notes that ratification of the convention entitles Zambia to key privileges and rights such as the right to nominate candidates for elective positions, including the ability to elect and be elected to the Administrative Council of the Union. Other privileges and rights to be enjoyed by Zambia on the ratification of the convention will include full participation in all activities, meetings, and conferences of the Union. Finally, Mr. Speaker, improved connectivity. The African Telecommunications Union worked to improve connectivity within and between African countries by promoting the development and deployment of new technologies such as broadband and 5G. Therefore, ratifying this agreement will help improve Zambia's connectivity countrywide, which will further aid Zambia's achievement of universal access to communications and nationwide connectivity. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, let me state that your committee is deeply indebted to your office for according us an opportunity to scrutinize this important international agreement, which will benefit Zambia in so many ways, as highlighted in our report. Mr. Speaker, I beg to second.
Thank you. Any further debate? Honourable Member for Kafinsa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to thank Chairperson for the committee and Vice Chair for presenting this very important report. Mr. Speaker, I quickly refer the committee chairperson to page 6, 7, and 8, which basically highlights the benefits that will come with signing this very important document. I think that I will not go item by item, but maybe just to emphasize that whenever reports of this nature, it's a highly technical issue, it may be important that the benefits that have been highlighted, Honorable Minister, we are able to be guided which countries have actually generated these benefits. Because for Zambia to join, it means that there are certain things that obviously the committee and the ministry has looked at. But the point is there is no mention of which country, for instance, has seen remarkable improvement in investment as a result of signing this document. Secondly, there is no mention of any other country which has seen improvement in internet governance, yet here it's been highlighted as a benefit. So, Mr. Speaker, these reports which are brought that appear to be very highly technical, our committee and the ministry would do well to share information with us. Which country, for instance, has benefited? What have been the benefits? So that as we sit here, Honorable Minister, we are able to look back and say this was a good agreement that we appended our signature to. So, Honorable Minister, I hope that as you respond, you will be able to highlight to us which countries have actually generated these benefits that have been listed. Quite many, as I must say. So, Mr. Speaker, those are my few comments, and I thank you.
Any further debate? The Honourable Minister of Science and Technologies and Science.
Mr. Speaker, let me start by thanking the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies and all the honourable members of the committee, led by Honourable Engineer Mabenga, MP, for undertaking a thorough job in scrutinizing my ministry's recommendation for Zambia to ratify the African Telecommunication Union Convention. Let me also thank all the members of Parliament that have debated on this motion. Mr. Speaker, allow me to underscore the significance of this decision. By becoming a ratified member of the ATU, Zambia aligns itself with a collective effort and solidarity of member states aimed at fostering collaboration among African nations in the development of telecommunication. Mr. Speaker, Zambia's commitment to the ATU is rooted in our broad foreign policy objective. By pursuing regional economic development and advocating for Africa's renaissance, we affirm our dedication to strengthening the African institutions and prioritizing the interests of our continent. With 52 states and 54 associate members, the ATU offers a platform for engagement and cooperation that extends beyond national boundaries. Mr. Speaker, let me now draw your attention to the tangible benefits to Zambia by ratifying the ATU. First and foremost, I wish to acknowledge the benefits as presented by the Committee on Media, Information, Communication Technologies. By ratifying the convention, Mr. Speaker, Zambia stands to have the following additional benefits, specific ones. Number one, enhanced communication on water bodies for emergency and security purposes. This will contribute to shortening of the response time to rescuing victims of accidents on our large water bodies. In addition, the implementation of e-navigation systems will enhance distress and safety communication on water bodies. This follows the resolution made at the World Radio Communication Conference held in Dubai in November last year to support the mobilization of the global maritime distress and safety system in the member countries. Number two, extended producer responsibility. As a member of the ATU, Zambia has been selected as one of the pilot countries to implement the extended producer responsibility. This is a principle that holds manufacturers, importers, and retailers responsible for the end-of-life disposal of their products. It shifts the burden of managing waste from local governments such as Zambia and taxpayers to the producers of goods. When applied to electronic waste management, EPR aims to promote sustainable practices and reduce harmful environmental impacts. Number three, Mr. Speaker, ATU champions the African voice at international forum where a single voice does not count much to have access to satellite resources or submarine cables. Mr. Speaker, in an era marked by the fourth industrial revolution and rapid technology advancement, Zambia stands at the crossroads. We must equip ourselves with the necessary policies and frameworks to navigate this landscape effectively. The ATU offers a forum for addressing emerging issues such as internet governance, cybersecurity, and sovereignty of nations in space. Mr. Speaker, the impact of ratifying ATU extends far beyond our borders. By harmonizing policies, improving connectivity, enhancing internet governance, we pave the way for increased investment, international visibility, and access to funding and technical assistance. These benefits not only strengthen Zambia's telecommunications sector, but also contribute to our broader economic and development agenda. In the light of this consideration, I urge this esteemed House to support the ratification of the ATU Constitution and Convention. Let us seize this opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to regional cooperation, technology advancement, and the prosperity of our nation. As we stand on the threshold of a digital revolution, let us ensure that Zambia remains at the forefront of progress, empowered by collective strength of the African Telecommunication Union. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, let me thank all the members of Parliament once again, and I make a call for us to embrace this opportunity to shape a future where Zambia emerges as a leader in telecommunication and ICT, contributing to shape the vision of a prosperous and interconnected country. Mr. Speaker, in terms of some of the issues that were spoken to, some of the benefits, tangible benefits, and the countries that have benefited include Rwanda, Botswana, Cape Verde, that have actually benefited to being members of the ATU. Last year, we missed out to nominate candidates for the oppositions that were available because we did not ratify. So it gives us an opportunity at the next round to be able to nominate. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Mlowezi, wind-up debate.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. But before that, I would like to also join the rest of the world in congratulating His Excellency, President of the Republic of Zambia, and the Commander-in-Chief of all armed forces, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, and the Minister of Finance and National Planning on the debt restructuring, which has become a reality. What appeared to be an impossible mission, it has brought glory to the Zambian people, including the doubting Thomases. This extra money will go to the social sector. I would like to thank the Vice Chair for ably seconding the motion. I also like to thank Mr. Kangombe for his contribution. The report was very technical. That's why we didn't get many people. But it's a very good report that it must be ratified. Without a few remarks, Mr. Chairman, I beg to move. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I put the question. The question is that this House do adopt a report of the Committee on Media, Information and Communication Technologies on the ratification of the International Agreement of the African Telecommunications Union Constitution and Convention for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 26 March 2024. Order. It's disappointing that the leader of opposition is the one that is making noise. Order. As many of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. The clerk will now read the orders of the day.
The Constituency Development Fund Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2023. Second reading.
The honourable members, you will recall that the debate on this bill was deferred from yesterday, Tuesday, 26th March 2024, to today. Therefore, consideration continues. But I must say also that a good number of people yesterday from the left debated. However, debate still continues.